Hi everyone. Hello, welcome to the stream. This is called Streams of Collective Consciousness, and I'm super excited. Today is Friday, April 18th. It's 4 p.m. Central Time. I always start the live stream at this time. And yeah, there's a lot to get into. I mainly talk about sustainable fashion news, environmental related news, and social justice news. So there's been a lot happening with the world, including finding out that Texan factories are making our high-end luxury fashion. So we'll get into that. We'll also get into like Shein IPOs, and then we'll be talking about the all-female crew that somehow ended up in space, but had no part in actually getting, the efforts going. Like, they're celebrities. Like, how did they know how to do this? Who knows? But we're gonna get into that. Gonna get into all the speculations. And if you don't know how this works, it's basically a very straightforward live stream. So we usually start at 4 p.m. Central Time, and then we get into like sustainable fashion news later. And then I do try to take a break like halfway there at 5, and then I do take like some time to talk about social issues in the later half of the live stream. I talk about environmentalism, positive news, stuff like that. And then I talk about fashion shows that are happening. I watch some fashion shows, and then I am trying to get into gaming. So I always say this, but like, I don't know how gaming works. I'm not a gamer per se. A lot of people would assume so because I'm live streaming, and it seems like I'm very into technology, but I like just learn stuff and then apply it, and then I'm like, okay, I don't really know how any of this is really working. So I always ask my little brother, like, hey, how can you help me connect this to this and this, and just asking a million questions and like just asking a lot of people. But I do want to get into gaming. I think it's really important to just like find a hobby. I don't really have hobbies. Most of the things I do is like around fashion. So really want to get into the gaming scene, like fashion gaming, fashion cozy gaming to be exact. But a lot of the games that I like are from like the early 90s or 2000s. So trying to figure out how to do that. And then I do go live every Tuesday and Friday from like 4 to 6:30 CST. And then yeah, that's how everything basically works. So very straightforward. It's almost like a presentation, you can say. So if you ever want to skip forward, you can if you're watching this recorded. I also have the Canva in the description. So if you like don't have a lot of time but want to know like the major things that have been happening in the fashion industry, and like some things I've chosen around like environmentalism and like social issues, that's also in the Canva. So feel free to look at that if you're like doing a 9 to 5 and just don't want to be on the stream for all those hours. Or if you lose track, like you'll know where to pick up before or afterwards. But basically, if you guys ever want to like have me talk about something, I'm very nitpicky with what I cover. Obviously, like I have my things chosen to talk about. So if you ever want me to talk about something, I have this community submission form. It's also in my description. You can fill that out, and I will review it and then talk about it next week. So because I live stream next Tuesday, I'll talk about it maybe next Tuesday after I look at it. But you do have to fill out your information. I'm a bit strict, I guess, about the things I talk about. I just really want it to resonate with me, my audience, the things I care about. But I'm going to check the audio, and you can look at this while I'm going to check the audio. Let me check the audio. Oh my god, my voice sounds so weird. I've been struggling to go to sleep. And have been having a bunch of nightmares. So if this live stream just doesn't seem to make sense, if I don't say things that make sense, totally just warning you guys that that's just because I've been having a lot of nightmares. There's been a lot happening in the world, and just it keeps me up at night. Yeah, so that's a bit about me though. I'm all about sustainable fashion. I have a podcast, I have live streams, I have video ideas and video content that should be coming out on Sundays, but I haven't really been doing YouTube videos. And then I try to do like all sorts of content creation. So that's just a bit about me, but I don't really take titles that seriously. Like, I don't really care about titles. That's just a way for people to understand like what I'm doing. But yeah, if you guys ever want to join the community, I have a Slack. You can always help out with my ethical fashion blog. You can always have an opportunity to become a sustainable fashion writer. I wish I had this opportunity when I was a younger, interested person in sustainable fashion. It's really hard to build up your own platform. So just having the ability to reach out to someone and get the opportunity without having to do all this like brand build up it's really easy. Like you can volunteer whenever you want, like you can write whenever you want. So that's just a resource I wish I had that I'm offering. And then working on a Substack newsletter to just keep all the information in one place. And then I think I'm rushing a bit of the intro, but yeah, I'm feeling a bit off. I haven't been sleeping well for the past couple of days, and I think just what's happening in the world is really hard on me and my psyche personally. Like I'm a very sensitive person. I've always known this, to the point people are like, you shouldn't care so much, or you shouldn't feel this, or you shouldn't think about it too much. But like the things that are happening in the world is very eerie. It's very dystopian. And so when I go on these live streams, they're very therapeutic. Even if no one is listening, or I pretend no one is, I'm sure there's going to be people listening to me in the future in the recorded version, which is a bit more popular. I always find it just like nice to talk and process what's happening, both the bad news and the good news, with not only myself in my room, but with others that are hopefully listening, whether in real life or recorded. So yeah, I just really am struggling right now. And there's also a mix of like, oh my gosh, the job market is ruined and I did everything right. I went to college. I did a million internships. I did so many different things to guarantee success in my personal life. I've literally built movements, like social justice movements, from the ground up, and I'm still miserably financially poor. I think I'm spiritually rich in a lot of ways because I know myself very well and I understand myself in the midst of society and what's happening. But it's really hard to survive right now. And so when I look out in the external job market and the external world, it just feels like everything's so impossible, and that even if we do everything right, it just sometimes feels like we're not going to get anywhere positive. But there's always like good people, good things happening. It's just being reminded of it is what I'm struggling with. And but yeah, there has been good stuff. Like I started my Depop. I'm a Depop reseller now, which is really amazing. I never knew it would be so successful so fast. I've almost made like $300, and that means so much to me because I only make $500 right now through my part-time job at a vintage shop. So it's really changing my life, and it can really make content creation a reality for me. And I can dedicate so much more mental time, not only in content creation, but in my mental health, which has been lacking forever. So I'm excited for that. I think things are finally progressing for me on a freelance way that I never expected. Um, but I am still looking for like a quote unquote real job. But like I said, the job market is cooked right now. But yeah, that's a little bit of insight of what I'm going through. Just been struggling, a lot of nightmares, but also like there's a lot of good things happening at the same time that it just overwhelms me of how positive it is because I'm not used to having a lot of things work out for me. But yeah, to get into the news so I can stop yapping about myself. There has been a lot of conversations about Shein and Temu, not only around like tariffs, but also their IPO battles. So there's this interesting article by LiveNow that also talked about this. So basically they explain that China is facing huge tariffs to the point that it's 145% taxes on exports. And so they're going to adjust prices going forward starting April 25th. So that's in 7 days. It sounds like I'm about to cry. I don't know what's wrong with my voice today. So if it sounds like I'm about to cry, I'm not about to cry. But yeah, they're basically going to charge the consumer the tariffs that they're paying, which is so not surprising in my eyes because it's like, when have they cared about the consumer? Like for me, I always just assumed they would pass on the cost to the consumer. Like I had no expectation that they were actually going to cover it themselves. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate. It really is for the consumer that's struggling to survive. Like I said, like the job market right now is cooked, even for Americans. You would think that Americans of all people would, you know, be thriving and have so many different resources, but they don't. They really don't. Um, so yeah. And then Beijing has been hit with a 125% tariff. It's just wild to me to think that like this is really happening. Like we're in a trade war for no basic reason whatsoever. It's kind of just mind-boggling why this is happening. Okay, I'm having some tech issues. I'm trying to like listen to my audio, but it seems like everything is fine. Okay, so yeah, Temu is also getting hit. Our beloved Temu, or our hated Temu, however you want to see it, is going to be doing what they call its price adjustments April 25th. I've already seen some companies put like an extra amount at the end of like the whole list of charges when you order online. So it's just a matter of time, I guess, before we see more brands do this. But like, I don't think the consumer should be paying this. It's, but my hypothesis, though, and like many people have been saying that like more people are going to be buying from thrift stores because they don't want to pay more for like what is called or what is known as cheap fast fashion. Like, let's say you're used to paying like $10 for a shirt and then shipping. Are you going to pay $5 more or $6 more because of the tariffs or the price adjustments? Maybe so, but I think Temu and Shein are really going to take a hit whether we want them to or not. Like, I'm in favor of them losing money. Nothing against it, but I also feel for those that are low income. Like, it's already hard to struggle to afford food. And then if you want like miscellaneous stuff, you're just going to be paying more for it. So that's who I feel for. So yeah, that's happening. And then, oh, I've also been seeing that a lot of people are like stocking up on certain things before the tariff hits, which is kind of weird. It reminds me of like when we were all buying what was it, eggs and toilet paper when COVID was going to break out, and that was our sense of control, even though we knew what was coming was basically inevitable. I think just hoarding stuff or trying to hoard stuff to buy it cheaper just makes us end up wasting more money and more of our time because maybe we don't need all this stuff that we're buying. Like, did we need a room full of toilet paper before COVID hit? I don't think so. So, but I think a lot of consumers just want to save their money somehow by buying in bulk. It's just kind of like funny because are you actually going to need that stuff, or are you just buying it because of anxiety? But yeah, this is a very interesting article. So e-commerce companies have been the biggest users of the widely used exception of the duty-free trade thing that was happening, where they didn't have to, pay anything for goods to come into the United States. So that's basically gone. It's such a shame that these tax wars or trade wars are happening. It's all going to benefit like the European and American billionaires, the Elon Musks of the world. So it just seems like the rich are going to get richer and the poor are going to get poorer. Not fair whatsoever for the normal working class person. but Shein seems to be on a track record of wanting success no matter what. They basically have been trying to get access to the stock market of London, and it seems like they're getting to it, like they've been approved. So the Singapore headquartered online retailer Shein has received the go-ahead from the UK's Financial Conduct Authority, also called as FCA. I've never heard of them, for its proposed initial public offering, IPO, in London. It was reported in January 2025 that Shein aimed to finalize its IPO in London by the middle of the year, with the potential of listing around April 20th. Why am I getting an ad? But seems like Shein had initially submitted all the documents in June, and then before proceeding, the company also had consent from the Chinese authorities, specifically the China Securities Regulatory Commission. So official. Everything just seems so official, yet at the end of the day, they're just exploiting people all the time. Like, we need this sense of professionalism with an entire supply chain, not just when it comes to making more money. And then Shein then recently notified the CSRS of receiving FCA's approval. So fancy. So freaking fancy. But is awaiting a definite response from the Chinese regulatory body. And then Shein first sought permission from Beijing in 2024 to initiate a public offering in London. 2024? It's been a while. They want access to the London money. They want London consumers. I don't blame them. I mean, I don't think they saw the tariffs coming, but now that the tariffs are here with the American consumers, I think they definitely will target more of that, like, European consumer now. That's my predictions, but I'm not an executive of a major fast fashion brand, so who knows. But the ultra fast fashion retailer operates in 150 nations and was valued at $66 billion. In the last funding round, 2023, the company does not directly manage any production facilities, but relies on 5,800 independent manufacturers, primarily located in China, for its merchandise. Its business model now faces potential challenges due to policy changes by the U.S. administration, aka the tariffs. Why can't they just say that? Say it, guys. Okay, and then let's see, what else? They're known for their cheap clothing. So Shein clears UK regulatory hurdle for London IPO. I like how they end off the article with that statement, but it doesn't explain further context of, like, what it really means. Very interesting. I love it when articles are very vague, and very tired working class concerned people have to go and literally look things up because the article fails to explain even the basic concept of things. I don't know. Call me crazy here. Journalism, man. Let's see. We can look at this video for further context of the IPO information, and then this one over here as well.
Britain's financial regulator is taking longer than usual to approve fast fashion retailer Shein's IPO. Sources have told Reuters that's because it's checking its supply chain oversight and assessing legal risks. It comes after an advocacy group for China's Uyghur population challenged the listing. Britain's independent anti-slavery commissioner has also raised concerns within government over a Shein IPO. It's due to allegations about labour practices at its suppliers. Shein sells $5 tops and $10 dresses worldwide, with most made in China. It filed confidentially in the UK in early June for a London listing. Two other sources said Shein is also awaiting approval from China's securities regulator for its London IPO. The advocacy group Stop Uyghur Genocide announced a legal challenge in June. It sent Britain's Financial Conduct Authority or FCA a dossier alleging Shein uses cotton from China's Xinjiang region. The US and NGOs have long accused China of human rights abuses in the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. They allege Uyghurs are forced to work producing cotton and other goods. Beijing has denied any abuses. Shein declined to reply to Reuters' questions about the FCA process. The company said it has a zero-tolerance policy for forced labour and is committed to respecting human rights. The FCA declined to comment on the listing and any delays.
Oh my god, his voice is like a professor where you know you're gonna fall asleep in the class. Jesus. Thank you for the information, though. That was such a boring video. I'm already tired. Make it entertaining at least. Ugh.
Shein has gained approval from British regulators for its planned initial public offering in London. That's according to two sources close
What's this background music to the video?
to the matter. It's a major step forward for the China founding company's pursuit of a London listing. The online fast fashion retailer filed papers for an IPO with Britain's Financial Conduct Authority, or FCA, last June. But it will have to contend with market turmoil caused by US President Donald Trump's tariffs. He's put 145% levies on Chinese goods and tighter rules on duty-free shipments from China to the US. Shein sells $10 dresses and $12 jeans in more than 150 countries, and it was valued at $66 billion in its last fundraising round 2 years ago. Sources have said the firm still needs to gain approval from Chinese regulators for the London float. One said Shein had informed Beijing of the FCA's approval but hadn't yet got the nod from watchdogs there. Shein and the FCA declined to comment on the Reuters report.
Very interesting, very interesting. Gosh, I wish they made these sort of news more exciting or more like tantalizing to watch to get people's interest in these things. It's just it feels like I'm like pulling teeth from my mouth listening to these reports. They've been talking about this since last year. What the heck? No commercials, thank you. No consumerism today. No capitalism today. I just don't need it right now. Sorry, I'm not feeling the vibes of capitalism. Please make it stop. No, I don't need another laptop. No.
Tension between the US and China, as we know. A lot of Chinese companies that have listed in the US actually haven't been very well received. And if you look at the ADR listing in the past 2 years, like some of the DD, some of the Lucking, they've all set pretty bad examples. So even if they do get the regulatory approval that they need, there could be a shareholder issue, whether they could generate enough interest, if there is enough investor confidence for another ADR listing. So what we have reported, our colleagues in Asia, Dong and Vinci have reported that the listing they're now considering a London listing, potentially a little bit more politically friendly, and so to see if they can raise capital there instead.
Would Hong Kong? They want that London money, and they're gonna go get it. Oh my gosh, Shein just tries to keep winning, and they always seem to be on the next step forward of getting more and more money. Whoever's in charge of their strategy are very, very malicious in the sense that they're just going after people's wallet and they're going to do anything to get there. They've been trying for so long to get to this, to be approved, and they've become approved. Very, very interesting times. I think the new American consumer is the European consumer in their eye. Okay, so we're gonna slightly change topics. Everything is interconnected. I always say that fashion is inherently political. If these examples are not enough for you, just listen to this. If fashion wasn't tied to politics, why else would we be talking about, the tariffs or the taxes or presidential elections? Like, everything is inherently mixing together whether we want to address it or not. Everything is affecting each other. And so when I talk about fashion, I'm talking about Trump a lot of the times. And one of the things that came out is that Louis Vuitton, I don't really care how you say that brand. It doesn't matter to me. But basically, it's been found out that this luxury brand is actually using Texan factories, and I'm not surprised, but we should definitely take a look at the report by Reuters. So basically, this article was written in Alvarado, Texas, and it says that LVMH's new Texas facility is one of Louis Vuitton's worst performing. Why am I not surprised, guys? Listen to this again. LVMH's new Texas facility that makes luxury fashion is one of their worst performing Louis Vuitton factories. Okay, sorry if I hurt your ears. I just heard myself talk and I'm like yelling. But yeah, the factory basically makes those 1,500 bags. And it says that they're struggling to train the workers, which is kind of crazy because they're supposed to be like the leaders of like these high-end bags. Like the workers should be trained, right? But the mystery why they're not, I think it's because they just contract whoever or just don't really care about quality or skilled workers working there. It says that defective bags are shredded on site. Oh my god, no. And carted away in trucks. No. We need a tracker for those trucks. Where are they taking it? Wait, am I getting glitched out? If I glitch out, just know that I may be getting censored. And then Louis Vuitton is to close the California workshop by 2021, seeks to move staff to Texas. Oh, okay, so they used to do it in California. It must have been in LA, like the LA garment district. Oh, interesting. So they're moving to Texas now. I wonder why. But they say 6 years ago, the LVMH's billionaire CEO Bernard Arnault. People be having the weirdest last name. I'm sorry, I don't want to be mean, but what is this last name? Arnault? We're going to call him Bernard A. And President Donald Trump cut the blue ribbon on a factory in rural Texas that would make designer handbags for Louis Vuitton, one of the world's best known luxury brands. So it must be this dude with this dude to make the worst performing Texan facility ever. Nice. Okay. It's looking good. Texas. Oh my gosh. 6 years ago. Wait, how is it still so bad after 6 years? Like, they must know what to do after 6 years, no? But since the high-profile opening, the factory has faced a host of problems limiting production, 11 former Louis Vuitton employees told Reuters. The site has consistently ranked among the worst performing for Louis Vuitton globally, significantly underperforming other facilities, according to 3 former Louis Vuitton workers and senior industry sources, who cited internal rankings shared with the staff. So people be snitching on them, saying it sucks. I like when that happens. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm not surprised. What else can we do but laugh? Like, why am I not surprised that luxury fashion fails to perform, fails to impress once again? I feel like luxury fashion is an illusion to get our money. That's really it. That's really it, man. My typing sucks. Don't judge me. Okay, let's see. Let's see the news for this. Not the AI news. Oh my gosh. Is this an AI generated lady talking about the news?
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Before we dive into today's wild story.
No, that's an AI lady. Uh-oh. Journalism is just getting worse, huh? We're not watching that one. They could have hired someone. Hey, there's me. 4 people watching. Thanks, guys. I'm just over here losing my mind over Texas factories. Okay, let's watch when they opened it. Uh-oh. I'm gonna get copyright struck because of Michael Jackson in the background, but good music, good vibes.
One step to do.
Wait, oh wow, that's skilled work. Wait, so how are they not skilled? If that literally looks like a fancy machine that you need to know how to use, and if you don't, then you're gonna get stabbed. Like, how are people not trained or being trained? Are they just firing people all the time? Like, what's happening? Beat it. Interesting, very interesting. Oh, look at this comment. Why would anyone want to buy a $4,000 luxury bag made in Texas and made instead of made in France? I mean, it does bring jobs back in the United States. Don't get me wrong. Like, employ the Americans for once. Geez, like, have them work in factories. That's what we want, right? But, like, I also had the assumption that if a French brand is going to make luxury French bags, it'll be made in France. French, right? Right? That logic is logicking. No? I literally didn't know that this factory existed, by the way. I had no idea. I saw this a couple of days ago and I was like, what the heck is happening? What is this? Wait, this is funny.
Votre histoire aujourd'hui, c'est celle de l'usine LVMH du Texas et de ses mauvaises performances.
I've been learning French on Duolingo. I have no idea what they're saying. I'm so sorry, Duolingo, I failed you.
Je ne sais pas si vous vous souvenez d'une certaine image, Donald Trump et Bernard Arnault côte à côte.
Donald Trump. Okay, let's be serious. I don't know what they're saying. Okay, let's find something that actually gives updates. Okay, let's watch him for a bit.
A very, very interesting story as we continue to talk about, you know, factories in the US, the Trump tariffs and all those kind of things. And we've been having discussions around the ability to create a lot of manufacturing infrastructure in the US and how easy it is to do that. And so that's why I thought this story was really interesting, because as many of you know, not that long ago actually, LVMH, you know, there were those pictures with Bernard Arnault and Donald Trump shaking hands when he built his factory in Texas where they were making Louis Vuitton bags. But now a lot of reports are coming out saying that LVMH's Louis Vuitton factory in Texas is actually the worst performing factory that they run globally. And so when we have these conversations around, you know, in the US, they have the infrastructure and they have the staff and the skills to create the kind of manufacturing that you see across the world in countries that specialize in these things, in garment manufacturing, whether we're talking about Vietnam or we're talking about China, Turkey, Portugal, France, Italy, it goes on and on and on. You tend to find that, you know, that isn't always the case. Someone is saying this is a New York Post. It's actually a Reuters article. As you can see, it even says by Reuters. It was just easier for me to open the New York Post article without like it being blocked behind a paywall. But the story is actually
I hate when articles are blocked by paywall. Like, guys, we're trying to understand what the heck is happening in the fashion world. Now we're listening to other people on YouTube because we couldn't have access to the original article. Like, give us the sources, give us the information. Just a side note.
Via Reuters, it's not via the New York Post. Just in case you didn't know, it's actually via Reuters. But anyway, reading on. So 6 years ago, LVMH's billionaire CEO Bernard Arnault and President Donald Trump cut the blue ribbon on a factory in rural Texas. As we all know, the site has consistently ranked amongst the worst performing for Louis Vuitton globally, significantly underperforming.
Okay, we know that part. Okay, move on.
Because once again, a lot of people like to act like this infrastructure is going to be able to be created overnight. You literally have Louis Vuitton's industrial director who said that the ramp up was harder than they thought it would be. And this is a factory, mind you, this is a factory that they finalized the building of years ago. So they have had years to actually try and figure out the most efficient way to do it. And this report is now coming out in 2025 showing that, you know, they're having issues. So they've had
6 years. I want the tea. Like, what was happening in that factory to the point where 6 workers were so willing to talk and be like, yeah, it sucks here. Yeah, we don't train our workers. Yeah, it's like things are not working. I just want the specifics of what was not working. Tell me the tea.
So much time to work out the kinks with their manufacturing and it's still not good. So this idea that, we're just going to impose tariffs on everyone overnight and all the factories are going to be built and it's going to be just as efficient is nonsensical. And I've been saying it's nonsensical from the start. People, constantly argue with me, and I don't know why, because it's common sense. And we have the reports.
Okay, well, Republicans are not known to have common sense, so I get a sentiment like to build a local fashion industry here in the United States, it's going to take major infrastructure, major systems, major laws. Like you said, I agree. Like, I don't think that's happening anytime soon. But when delusion calls, Trump answers. And here we are in the chaos of the United States. He's lucky that he's like in London or something. I don't think he's going to be in the United States dealing with the chaos. So kudos for him to be in his little room criticizing America. But it's just, I feel for his concern, but yeah, I resonate that it's just going to be a shit show here for everyone. So I don't think I'm going to be I don't think I'm going to be hired in a factory anytime soon. But it's just we need to call up Trump and be like, hey man, like get off of your high horse of delusion here, because he's not answering, he's not listening, he just doesn't care, he just wants to do whatever he wants. So yeah, it can be common sense to be like, yeah, a local fashion industry is not going to happen in the United States anytime soon. Tell that to Trump though. Tell that to Trump. Is he going to listen? Probably not.
To back all of this up, and we'll continue to have the reports to back all of this up. We're reading on. The Texas site, situated on a 250-acre ranch, has struggled due to a lack of skilled leather workers able to produce at the brand's quality standards, the 3 former workers told Reuters. So, once again, they have had years to train the staff.
Also, side note, I really wish I was British and just looking at the mess of America from like a distance. I'm kind of jealous. I'm so jealous of this man. I also want to be criticizing the United States without being in it.
And they still can't find enough skilled workers. So how exactly are they planning on, ramping up the production in the US when with the little, luxury production hubs they are struggling themselves to find workers that are skilled enough to create their leather bags to the quality and to the standard that they need it at. I don't know how they expect that to happen. Reading on, it took them years to start making the simple pockets of the Neverfull handbag. One source familiar with operations at the plant said, referring to the classic Louis Vuitton shoulder bag. Errors made during the cutting, preparation, and assembly process led to the waste of as many as 40% of the leather hides. Oh my god, 40% is insane. That is insane. 40% of the leather hides were going to waste. That is insane. I really want to know what they do with all of those leather hides.
I was about to say that. I'm like, what are they doing with all the waste? I just feel like inefficiency is so ingrained in not only fast fashion, but luxury fashion. Like, this just shows the lack of care and circular thinking that is needed to avoid so much waste. Because you would think, oh, they're crafting these beautiful bags, like they care about the entire process, but yet they're wasting so much. Like, don't they know better of how much is needed and when it's needed and how it's needed? It's just who's in charge here, man? Who's the manager?
It's that they get rid of. I hope they find a use for it, maybe by using those to make accessories and stuff, because I recently visited the Celine factory, which is also an LVMH brand, and they use a lot of their like leather scraps and stuff to make accessories and belts and stuff like that. So I hope Louis Vuitton has a good way of using this waste, because that is so much waste. 40% is really, really insane. Like 40% is wild. But reading on, industry-wide, typical waste rates for leather goods are generally 20%, a senior industry source said. So their waste is double the industry standard. Insane. Several former employees who spoke to Reuters described the high-pressure environment. To boost production numbers, supervisors routinely turned a blind eye towards methods to conceal defects and in some cases encouraged them. 4 former employees told Reuters. And I mean, that doesn't surprise me that they are, trying to turn a blind eye so that they can meet production standards, especially when production standards are high, because once again, you cannot compare it to Italy or France, where in Italy and France, they have been producing luxury bags since like last century. So they have been able to fine tune all the kinks in the, production process for years, like 30, 40 years, sometimes even longer for a lot of these brands. So you are not just going to go to a new region and be able to, achieve that same level of output that quickly. It's just not going to happen. And you can see that's the case based on exactly what they are saying in this report. But reading on, Fouchard acknowledged there had been such cases in the past, but the issue had been resolved. This dates back to 2018 and one particular manager who isn't part of the company anymore, he said. Poorly crafted handbags deemed unfit for sale are shredded on site and carted away in trucks for incineration. Two of the sources with knowledge of the firm's supply chain said. Okay, so that's a problem. That's a big problem. So what they do is they shred the bags and incinerate them.
That's crazy. Why would they burn it? They can't resell it. I am so unserious today about like, why are they doing this? Yeah, guys, our stuff sucked today, so we're actually gonna burn it. Who goes around saying that? Imagine if you ever try to do something and you're like, yeah, this sucked. I'm gonna burn it. I'm gonna burn it right here, right now, so no one else gets the chance of touching these items. Because God forbid we sell it used or we like do something else with it. Look at his face. He's literally like, oh my god, what the hell is happening? And if they can't burn it on site, they're gonna take it somewhere to burn it off site. Nice. So smart. What is happening? Jesus.
That is not good. That is not great. That's not great at all. That is not what I wanted to read. I wanted to read that they use the waste and use it for accessories and stuff like that. So they're telling me that the 40% of wasted leather hides get incinerated. Oh my gosh, where are the sustainability journalists and sustainability activists talking about this? Of course, this report is very new, but
it seems like I'm glitching out. Just give me 1 second. Come back to me. Okay, it seems like I'm back. Let me rewind a bit. It sounded like someone was shooting outside. There's a lot going on right now. I'm glitching out. So sorry. My internet has been trashed for a whole week now. And someone sounds like they're shooting outside for some reason. So let's just rewind a bit.
Sustainability journalists and sustainability activists talking about this. Of course, this report is very new, but I'd like to see more.
I'm right here. I'm a sustainability activist. He has a lot of great context and understanding of how the luxury fashion world works. I'm a bit relatively new to the whole luxury fashion world. I dedicated the last 6-7 years building social justice movements that I wasn't really paying attention to the luxury fashion world. But he's a luxury fashion journalist, and he went to a very prestigious school in Europe. So I think it was Central St. Martin's or something like that he went to. He's also a live streamer and a YouTube content creator. He seems like he does it full time, constantly updating everyone on the latest fashion news. So I'm also learning with y'all. This is very interesting to hear and process.
More sustainability advocates talk about this, because wow, shredded on site and carted away in trucks for incineration. That still happens in 2025. That is not good. That is not good. Reading on, a former production supervisor who often traveled to the site and said Louis Vuitton mostly used the Texas plant for less sophisticated handbag models, producing its most expensive products elsewhere. No surprises there, because the expertise and the skill set is not in the US. So it makes sense why they would produce, their most basic bags in the US. And even though they are producing their most basic bags in the US, they still have the worst performance and the most waste out of all their factories worldwide. Insane. Fouchard, Louis Vuitton's industrial director, said the company was being patient with a young factory. Any bag that goes out of...
I don't think the blame should be placed on the workers. The workers are just working. At the end of the day, it's the people in charge. Who were the people in charge of these factories that failed miserably to train basic workers making basic bags? Not saying that these humans are basic humans. It's just they're basic workers. It was just simple, straightforward things, right? That's what we would assume. That's what they basically told us to believe. So how was it that they kept losing workers and there were so many complaints? I think it was a broad picture of maybe constantly firing and hiring workers. There's just a lot of malpractices, like bad practices, just a lot of like inefficiencies that were continued because no one wanted to change it for the better. So it's not necessarily Texan workers' fault. It's more so like Texan corporate leaders from this brand. Like, what were y'all up to? Like, what were you guys doing? Like, why didn't you care that 40% of the stuff that you're doing is being burned? Like, you authorized it, so like, why not make it better? And then when you hire these sustainability managers or these sustainability officers, are you letting them do their actual job? Probably not, because you don't really care. I don't think these brands really care. Unless there's laws making them do their stuff ethically and responsibly, they're not going to change. It's not the workers or the individual's fault for what is happening in the fashion industry. It never will be. Never.
Part of it must be a Louis Vuitton bag. We make sure it meets exactly the same quality, he said. I'm not aware of any kinds of issues suggesting the quality coming from Texas is any different from that coming from Europe. Perched behind a hill, the handbag maker's 2 production facilities were built on grounds near grazing cattle and a gas well. Louis Vuitton named the site Rochambeau in tribute to a French general who fought in the Revolutionary War. Workers at the site make components and entire models of Louis Vuitton handbags like Felice pochettes and Metis bags with Made in USA tags inside. The items sell for around $1,500 and $3,000 at high-end boutiques. LVMH declined to comment when asked which handbag models are fully or partially made in Texas, but former workers interviewed by Reuters mentioned the Carriole, the Keeple, the Metis, the Felice and the Neverfull handbag lines among the plant's products. In its marketing material, Louis Vuitton says its handbags, typically made at French, Spanish or Italian leather ateliers by artisans known as petites mains, are assembled using a process that it has perfected since the mid-19th century. So I'm going to call cap on this only because I'm going to call cap on this for 2 reasons. The first reason, we have seen so many reports of LVMH working with third-party manufacturers that LVMH claims they don't know what's going on there. So that's the first thing. Second of all,
it's called subcontracting. It's where they like make other people do their work, and when something goes wrong, they're like, guys, we didn't know who we were hiring. We just subcontracted the work out, and things just got out of hand. Our hands are clean, we swear. It's not like we just didn't want to be responsible about who we're employing and actually pay them a fair wage and actually care about what's happening in our supply chain. We just have no idea what's happening. It's willful ignorance. Willful ignorance.
Even though they have perfected their assembly line since the 19th century, I do agree that they probably had. The expertise is there. However, the workers are not in the US. So there are generations of people in Italy and in France that have been making leather bags, like literally families of generations that have this craftsmanship and expertise. That does not exist in the US. So that's why they're struggling to find enough skilled workers, because there isn't, that same history of that same craftsmanship.
I don't think what he's saying is necessarily true. I think you can always train workers. You can invest in workers. You can teach them history, teach them the context, give them the machinery, give them the tools, and give them a way to enter this field despite them never have done this before in their life. Like, people can do something. People can learn. People can work. People can dedicate themselves to artisanal craft even if they don't come from a background of that. Yes, America doesn't have the history of like cultural artisanal skills, or like don't have this like focus on craftsmanship, but I do think we all and will always have the capacity to learn. So in that way I disagree with them, and that's why it's important to like watch other people and learn from other people. But in this sentiment, I do think that we still, as Americans in this Texan factory, have the chance to do things better through an artisanal focus. We're not doomed.
In the US, the same way that there is in the likes of Italy or France. So even if they have the right process, they don't have the skilled workers. So them trying to make this argument that there's no issue, I'm going to call big cap on that. I think that's cap. But reading on, after cutting canvas and leather using hand tools and laser cutting machines, they stitch pieces together using industrial sewing machines. So I'm going to call cap on this because I recently visited the Celine factory, which is also an LVMH brand. And in the Celine factory, they told me that it takes workers approximately 4 to 5 years of training before they are allowed to work on every aspect of the creation of most of the Celine bags. So if we're going to take that understanding, how long has the LVMH, Louis Vuitton factory been in Texas? And that tells you that there's absolutely no way they could possibly have enough skilled workers at that factory just based on having to train workers for up to 5 years for them to comfortably work on every aspect of the creation of each.
I mean, I think this Celine brand operates a certain way. Like maybe they do take the time to like train their workers for 4 to 5 years to work on every single part of the bag. But most of the times, fast fashion relies on assembly line work where it's like one person focuses on one part of the bag. And that's like typically what happens in a lot of different factories, or else everyone would be self-autonomous. They'd be the leader. They would have a sense of more like leadership or more rights. But to keep the person down and to keep efficiency up, a lot of people are stuck on one small part of the process of making the bag. So I think there's an assumption by his part that, yeah, for the Texan factory to do things ethically, to train the workers ethically, they would have to be trained for 4 to 5 years, like the Celine factory, to have the worker be an expert, to be fully trained. So there's an assumption on his part that no one has become a full expert. But I don't think that's the point of this argument. I think the point of the Texan facility is that they don't care about anything. Like, what would make anyone assume that that Louis Vuitton wants their Texan factory workers to be full experts on the craft? I don't think they want that to happen.
Each bag. So big cap, I'm going to call big cap on that. Foul on the play, guys. But reading on, workers at the Texas facility, which includes dedicated floors for cutting and for assembly, as well as a warehouse, were initially paid $13 per hour.
$13 an hour. Do you think that a major luxury brand cares about their workers when you're only paying them $13 an hour? Do you think they're going to train these people for 4 to 5 years to become expert craftsmanship and artisans? No. No. And it's sad. And this is basically wage theft. You should not be paying someone $13 to make luxury bags. That is horrendous.
As of 2024, base pay for a leather worker position at the plant was $17 per hour, according to 2 people who recently applied for positions. The minimum wage in Texas is $7.25 an hour.
$27.25 an hour is the minimum wage for Texas? No. Oh my gosh, no.
A former leather worker who arrived as a migrant in the US some years before said she felt proud when she was hired by a prestigious French brand, but said some workers struggled to meet the brand's quality standards and production targets. We are under a lot of pressure to make the daily goals, said the former worker, who left the factory at the end of 2019. Another person who...
It's called exploitation. Exploitation. Yeah, they're paying maybe double of what's the minimum wage, but they're paying it with their literal blood and tears. It's still exploitation. Luxury fashion made in the Americas, made in the United States. It is literally made from the back-breaking work of immigrants. Isn't that so like what's happening in every other place?
Who worked at the facility until 2023 said she cut corners, like using a hot pin to melt canvas and leather to conceal imperfections in a particularly difficult piece called the Vendome Opera Bag. Another former leather worker said they'd seen multiple people melt material to hide holes or other imperfections in stitching. And that's insane because, once again, going to Celine, talking about the Celine factory, because I...
All right. I don't want to listen to the Celine factories. I get his bias, his perspective, but... just before I move on, I do want to say I'm a bit sad that Louis Vuitton is prioritizing the exploitation of immigrants versus paying them for their work. And I do think that the reason why they have such bad quality work is because they're not given enough time to do the bags. Like, if they have such a pressure to produce so much, then they're just making stuff at a rapid pace. I just don't believe in the hype of luxury fashion anymore. It's essentially fast fashion. It's made incredibly fast. And people that are making it are not even paid well. So you're just paying tens of thousands of dollars for the same thing to happen to these poor workers. And then it's destroying the world. So is the brand really worth it? Is the brand really worth the pain? I don't think so. This man needs to fix his company. That's all I need to say about this. The fault is on them. They need to fix their ways. A luxury fashion worker in Texas should not be making $13 an hour. And these are immigrants. That's just so messed up. It's so messed up. Oh my gosh. But today we're going to focus a bit more on positive news, just because I am a bit overwhelmed about all the negative things that are happening. Not to take away about the reality of what's happening in Texas, and Texan workers, but there is a lot of amazing solutions and people that do care, and we have to remember that. We have to remember that despite the problems, the issues, the inefficiencies, the profit-driven, greedy companies, there's always locals, intellectuals, professors, schools, individuals that are just coming together to do a positive thing to hopefully change the ways of this entire industry. And one of that is the Sustainable Fashion Week that's happening at WashU. So basically it's being led by professors. So Michelle Delore, Marcus Faustin, and Mary Rubert. They came together to talk about fast fashion during their first ever Sustainable Fashion Week. And they explained that people have just now started thinking about the next step. What happens after we've consumed, said Mary Rubert, Associate Professor of Fashion Design at the Sam Fox School of Design and Visual Arts. She's referencing the millions of tons of textile products discarded each year. Her co-panelists, Professors Michelle Delore and Marcus Faustin, echoed her sentiment. Something needs to be done to combat fast fashion, cheap, trendy clothes that are produced quickly. Also, I do want to make luxury fashion the villain as well, because it can be incredibly dangerous and exploitative to even American factory workers, like we just saw. You need to villainize luxury fashion a bit more as well. So the first annual fashion show or Fashion Week took place 2 weeks ago from March 28th to April 4th. The event spanned everything from a free secondhand clothing bazaar to a repair fair where students brought in damaged items to learn about how to repair them, and even a project runway style fashion show. And all the students organized events, including the factory panel, revolved around the idea of making the fashion industry more sustainable. And then the full week of events was capped by a faculty panel that brought 3 professors from the different schools. So the events had a focus on fast fashion taking over the industry. So the panel's student moderator cited that nearly 8% of greenhouse gas emissions are produced by the textile industry, while there's more so fashion practices like thrifting and DIY are gradually returning to mainstream style. Social media remains plastered with unboxings of towering piles of Shein packages and influencers' seemingly infinite wardrobes. So one professor illustrated how the basis of fast fashion is embedded at the very core of the industry. Fashion instigates change, she said. So whether the garment is made quickly or if it's made over a 6-month time period, that desire to change and look different, that's driven by fashion. She also noted that fast fashion is not a new concept, explaining how in Paris, at the beginning of her career, fast fashion was already a growing norm. We would have a design, we would make a prototype, we would cut it, we would bring sewing operators and contractors in to sew it, and a week later we would have them in our store. So the phenomenon isn't different, it's just the scale of it has changed. So part of the, oh my god, I keep highlighting it and it highlights everything. What's happening? It says part of why the issue is so complicated to tackle is because of the extensive worldwide supply chain that fuels the industry. So one professor explains that they teach several classes on fast fashion and consumerism, and her curriculum involves students figuring out the supply chain of an item that they want to buy. Dang, I need to do that too. I feel like it's impossible, to be honest. And she says that the exercise illustrates how such information isn't readily available, regardless of the average consumer's cognizance of the issue. So in plain words, in normal words, it's a hard thing to figure out, because no brand is being honest about where and how they're making their clothing. Yep. They're massive gaslighters. Major fashion brands are major gaslighters. Okay, so they say we can look at the prices. Like if you go on Shein right now, you can look at the prices and it's, wow, I could buy that for that price. And it's almost like a bit shocking, right? So that can be exciting on one hand, Dilar said. But on the flip side, a lot of students then look at those and they look at the price and they think there is no way you could produce that for and advertise it and ship it here and ship it to me for that price and have that be part of like a fair system. Like, it just doesn't logically make any sense. It's called capitalism, baby. Trump lives in a delusional state of mind called capitalism, unfortunately. But the article continues on to say, while investing in slow fashion is costly and can be difficult, there are avenues that can make fast fashion less environmentally destructive. There are technologies we can use, says Faustin, an associate professor at McKelvey. What are these names? McKelvey, who does research on biologically derived materials. But even when but even tech changes, they come at a cost to consumers and members of the supply chain. So the question isn't explicitly one of technology, but one of cost, and one of the ways in which the consumer understands value. It's not the individual's fault here, it's the brand's. It doesn't matter how the individual sees value. If we have these major brands continue to force themselves upon us, and we're often going to go to the price conscious decision, which is a cheaper one because we're all struggling to pay our rent. A lot of times people sacrifice their value when they're financially in a bad spot. So it's not really like how we understand value. It's more so like, can we actually practice our values with the money that we have? And if not, then it's just part of the journey of making better choices and better like decisions in the midst of struggles. I kind of like get irritated when all these professors or these quote unquote experts are like, the individual must and needs. It's not the individual's fault. It's the brands. Talk about the brands. Focus on the brands. They're the ones that are being greedy and who don't really care about values whatsoever. The article then continues on to say, because of this figuring, this article was definitely not written by AI. Okay. Because of this, figuring out how to successfully market more sustainably produced clothing is necessary. No, we don't need more clothes. We don't need more sustainable brands. I'm sorry. We don't. We just don't. We don't need it. It doesn't matter how to market it. We're just marketing more consumerism. So even though the industry is worldwide, public policy is an option for mandating sustainability practices in textile industries, despite the cost to suppliers and consumers. I think it needs to be forced. I think regulations must be forced upon brands to ensure sustainability practices. I don't think it just needs to be an option. I think we need to force these greedy brands to do something. Arrest me for it. Arrest me. Let's see. They focus a lot on the consumer here. It's not the consumer's fault. We need these brands to do better. But I like the Sustainable Fashion Week idea. I think more colleges are actually adopting sustainability and like thinking critically about it. It's just don't blame us. Don't blame each other. Look at the villain. It's the fashion brands. Okay, so it seems like another article is talking about the mission. So fashion is only 8.6% towards their 2030 emissions deadline. Here's how to speed it up. So halfway to a deadline for cutting emissions, apparel and footwear companies need help. The Apparel Impact Institute has some thoughts. So Trellis is an article and basically say that it's been 6 years since industry leaders set a 12-year goal for slashing 100% megatons of CO2. Progress has been slow despite the fact that high-profile brands and retailers are deepening their decarbonization commitments and funding. The Apparel Impact Institute is focusing on making deeper impacts with electrification and other tech and working in more regions. Where the Apparel Impact Institute goes, so does sustainable fashion. If the nonprofit's latest accounting of progress is a fair indicator, then apparel companies need to quicken their pace if they are to close the gap between today's achievements and the Paris Agreement aligned targets of net zero by 2050. Uh-oh, it doesn't sound too good. And we're over here blaming consumers and the brands have done nothing. What are these brands doing? Guys, we need to force them to care because this is going to continue to happen. Only 8.6% towards 2030 emissions deadline. Uh-oh. When is 2030? It's like in 4 years, isn't it? Like 5 years? Oh, gosh. Oh, we're cooked. Literally. Why? Why don't we force them? I'm gonna throw a mini tantrum. Let's force these fuckers. So basically the brands, retailers, and suppliers that engage with the Apparel Impact Institute represent the vanguard of decarbonization work for the sector, which the United States blames for causing 4 to 8% of global climate emissions. The group is working with about 2,000 suppliers to prevent the release of 100 megatons of CO2 equivalent by 2030. But halfway toward the deadline, they have only come 8.6% of the way. And even so, the AII reported in 2024's impact report that the company is already working. That the companies it already worked with are deepening their commitment and moving towards deeper, lasting emission reduction. Okay, what does that actually mean though? So here's some imperatives. Raise more money? Huh? What do you mean raise more money? So they're trying to pool money and hands-on projects to reduce emissions? Why? I'm so confused. What? Participants have only contributed to 7.8% of the planned $2 billion in capital. Oh, okay. So major brands are expected to put money into this nonprofit to help reduce emissions, and they've only contributed 7.8% of the $2 billion. Okay. Seems like they're holding on to their money. And then the nonprofit has an enviable roster of partners. Enviable? Or maybe complacent and lazy roster of partners. Target, Lululemon, H&M, Gap, PFH, Ralph Lauren, and HSBC contribute to the AII's Fashion Climate Fund, which for 3 years has been trying to raise $250 million. I wonder how well they're doing because it seems like they're not even reaching basic goals here. Oh gosh. It seems like the nonprofit is just struggling to get these major brands to like contribute to reducing carbon emissions and like actually putting them into action or putting them to take action. So that's very unfortunate. It says that they've piloted a lot of programs in 2024 to help companies with Tier 1 decarbonization action plans, helping with renewable energy transitions throughout Asia, and helping 11 Italian tanneries for luxury brands use energy and water more efficiently. And then they removed about equivalent of 52,119 cars worth of emissions, saved 2.4 million swimming pools of water, and energy usage of 14.3 million washing machines. I mean, that's good. And then they continue to run energy efficiency programs. And then they do have a climate solutions portfolio track to vet solutions from companies to understand their CO2 targets. Oh my gosh. Good progress, but it seems like they're just lagging in general. What if we like all call the major brands and be like, yo, so are you paying attention to your Apparel Impact Institute's responsibilities here, buddy? H&M. Give them money. Like, do what you're supposed to do. Yeah, we definitely need to pressure the brands a bit more because they're not really meeting their voluntary set goals to reduce what they're supposed to be reducing. So that's not good news. I thought we were going to talk about good news. But I think this is good news. So basically there's been more sustainable fashion weeks, more sustainable fashion shows all across the world. So one was in Seattle. They had a fashion show in the Fairmont Olympic Hotel. And basically, it was a very fancy evening with afternoon tea, enough for you to be like, oh my gosh, there's hope and we can do something and people care. There's like spring flavors. There's Earth Month vibes. I low-key wanted to go. No one invited me, but that's fine. But they actually made a video about it, so we should definitely enjoy.
And sustainability, the Fairmont Olympic is serving up more than just tea this Earth Month. They're hosting hot tea, which...
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Good news, good news.
Hot tea, which is a modern twist on afternoon tea, blending local fashion designs and sustainability. tariffS down to the Arc Lounge this morning with Creative Director of Celebrations, Andrew Hoagie.
Hi, Steve.
Hello.
And hello to you, Andrew. Thanks so much for coming in.
Absolutely. It's such a pleasure to be here.
You know, this is my type of event. This is not your traditional tea service. So what?
It's kind of glitching out, isn't it? It's glitching out on me. No. No. Don't do this to the Latina girl that just wants people to care. For the brands to care. Am I back? Guys, am I back? I'm so sorry about this glitching problem. If I was rich and I had a big, fast internet connection, this would not be happening. But that's not the case. So I think the show must move on, even when we got glitches.
What inspired the creation of hot tea?
Absolutely.
And what is it exactly?
I know, it's a big question. I think first and foremost, hot tea is about community. You know, the Fairmont Olympic Hotel, we've been around for 100 years, gathering people, celebrating, and this is really a celebration of community and fashion, and for this particular event, sustainability. Seattle has a huge emphasis on sustainability and thinking differently, and I wanted to bring together different retailers and designers to showcase all of the different options around sustainability that is here in the Pacific Northwest.
That's so special. You know, we've got a huge, obviously, environmental culture here in Washington State, but fashion as well. And you mentioned sustainability is a core theme of Earth Month, and that's very timely. So how are you incorporating eco-friendly fashions and fashion designers, and also even culinary options for this event?
Well, those are all great questions. So there's a lot of different elements to this event. First and foremost, it's a fashion salon. So we're really inspired by the way that couturiers and designers back in the day used to have models walk through. You could see the clothing up close. You could see how it moves. And we were just really inspired by that. We all love the runway show. It's so fabulous, but this is a little bit slower, a little bit thoughtful, kind of like sustainability and eco-friendly fashion itself. So that's what guests will be able to enjoy while enjoying our signature afternoon tea, presented in a slightly modern way. Typically you have afternoon tea in the tea stands and things like that, and we'll be having all of the favorites, the savory sandwiches, the desserts, the scones, sparkling wine, of course, but we're going to be presenting it in a slightly modern way. So in a similar vein, the hotel focuses on sustainable growers, sourcing food and ingredients from 150 miles from the hotel. So we're using all of these elements and combining them to this sustainable focused event.
I love this, and it seems very intimate as well. Like people will really get a close-up view of what the models are wearing.
Absolutely.
In the fashion salon. Yeah.
Absolutely. So there's only 120 seats. This is our first ever hot tea, and so what guests can expect, they'll come in. That we encourage them to dress up and have fun with it, dress for spring, dress for however you want, but they'll be seated and while enjoying the tea and some live music, the models will meander through the tables, pose on podiums. Guests will be able to ask the models to turn around to see how the fabric moves, and we'll be featuring at least 5 different retailers and designers. So it's really exciting to see all of those options come together in one place.
And some big designers here based in the Pacific Northwest as well.
Absolutely.
So do you have, I mean, you do so much, Andrew. You're a creative director, but also director of celebrations for the Fairmont, which is such an iconic place here in the city. I mean, what's your favorite part about your job and putting together events like this?
Oh my goodness. Well, there's so many amazing things about my job. I'm very, very lucky to have my dream job. And I would say that the first thing that comes to mind is working with my team. I mean, coming up with an event like this isn't just one person. It's chef and marketing and everyone coming together to create this incredible experience. And then I would also say being able to have a platform at the hotel to showcase the very best of the Pacific Northwest and to be able to present these ideas in new, exciting, different ways is so rewarding, especially when you see people just sort of look and get inspired and walk away kind of thinking about how to apply it to their daily lives.
I was just going to ask you that. What do you hope people walk away feeling like after they experience the haute tea, and also how can people reserve tickets?
Absolutely. Well, that was my shower thought this morning. And so there's a lot of different verticals when it comes to sustainability. It's not a one-size-fits-all, especially as we kind of grapple with how to be more sustainable with our fashion choices. So we have everything from Luli Young and Angeline Brunk presenting couture, which in its own way is sustainable because it's made for the body. It's made once. There's almost no waste. Then Seattle has an amazing thrift and retail culture. So we're featuring designs from Frida and different boutiques like that. So I really want people to come enjoy themselves, enjoy the experience of dressing up, enjoying an afternoon together, but to leave thinking about how to be more thoughtful about their fashion choices and their consumption of fashion, because the industry is one of the most polluting industries in the world.
Oh my goodness.
We all have a responsibility to think about it differently.
Steve and I were just talking about fast fashion, and we had a whole conversation about that. You already have your outfit picked out?
I'm working on it. I'm working on the models first.
Models first, and then you and everyone else second. Okay. All right. Well, I need to start shopping, Steve. It sounds like a lot of fun. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Can't even talk right now.
We always have to do more shopping, right? And I'm going to work on my little T pose here, right, to get the finger out.
With the pinky up.
That's right.
Pinky up, Steve.
Cheers.
Thank you.
I love the Fairmont. All right, to learn more about Hot Tea event, we made it easy for you. Just go ahead and scan the QR code on your screen. That will take you directly to komonews.com.
I need to go to one of those events. I feel like that would restore my faith in humanity. I think just having these sort of things be in our community does really restore hope and like brings inspiration and like resilience to solutions in the industry. I think I'm lacking that exposure and like that ability to talk with others that I resonate with. So I definitely do need to like see how to be part of these sort of events. Maybe in Chicago there's something something is happening. I am not sure. I haven't really looked into it. I've been so busy personally, but I would live for this if I saw this coming in my city in Chicago. So very nice. I'm excited for this to happen. I think it already happened. When did it happen? April 25th. It's planned for April 25th. So in 7 days. Oh, nice. I wonder how much the tickets are. I do very wonder. I don't like the cookies, no. Okay, 1 p.m. it'll happen in a very fancy hotel. Oh god. All the ads, man. Okay, let's see. For 2 people in Seattle, Washington, it's going to be... Is it booked out? Oh, $150 per person. Oh god, what the heck? And it only okay. I can only choose I can choose multiple options. Oh my gosh. $150 for each person, including tax and gratuity. $400. Oh god. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Well, I like the concept, but not the cost. Okay, this needs to be a bit more affordable, but they do got couture designers going, so a poor Latina is probably not the target audience. But very nice to see, very cool. If you got the disposable income and are in Seattle, Washington, or Seattle, and just in Seattle, I don't know. Is Seattle, Washington? I have no idea. You can definitely go. But I'm gonna move on and talk about this other fashion show that's happening. It's called the Trashion Fashion Show, and it's going to return. It's happened in the past. So they're gonna use tinsel garland, wrapping paper, boxes, and bows. And it's going to happen April 24th, and it's going to be at the United Theater. I don't know where exactly, but they say that it's basically bringing recycled material back on stage, and it's part of their Earth Day celebrations and highlights sustainable fashion. So local designers and artists are going to make their magic happen and turn everyday trash into runway-ready treasures, showcasing the beauty of creativity and environmental responsibility. So there's going to be about roughly 30 models, and they're going to go down the runway. Very nice, very fun. So that's happening. I wonder what the location is. The Ocean Community Chamber of E-Commerce will hold its annual Trashion Fashion Show. I wonder where it's at. Is it Ohio, Washington, California, Memphis, Tennessee, Rhode Island? Rhode Island, guys. Tickets are $15. Oh, nice. Rhode Island. I've never been to Rhode Island. What's in Rhode Island? Is there anything fun happening in Rhode Island besides the Trashion Fashion Week? From 7 to 9. A fun, funky fashion show of one-of-a-kind pieces. Ooh, okay, okay. I wonder if they've had videos on this. I always love to watch like the eco fashion shows. That's always just super fun to watch. Let's see. Rhode Island. Rhode Island. Oh, I also want to watch this other video where a past Forever 21 worker explains why she thinks Forever 21 went bankrupt. I need to watch it. Let's see. 10 months ago, let's see. Oh, this was in Dallas, Texas?
First, a fashion exhibit with garments made from 90% reused or repurposed materials is on display for free. This year's theme is the elements. If you find yourself at Galleria Dallas sometime soon, you have to stop by the HKS.
I don't think this is the one that we're looking for, but we'll use it. We'll just watch this one.
Fashion show exhibit. So basically what they have here are outfits, garments, dresses made from recycled materials. And this was actually the winner this year. It's called Gasping for Air. It's made from bubble wrap, cardboard, and wall canvas. Hanging out with Ashley Hall to learn more about the Trashion show in general. Okay, tell us about this whole effort. It really is incredible.
The Trashion show inspires HKS designers, their full level of creativity, and they make these high fashion garments made out of 90% repurposed and reused fabrics and materials.
It really is incredible. Now talk about the company behind it, because obviously they have a vested interest in just sort of bringing about some awareness for taking care of the earth.
Right. HKS is a local Dallas firm. We have 29 offices worldwide, and we are truly ingrained in committed to tackling environmental and social challenges.
So this is a part of that effort. It sounds like what you do is you have this fashion show and employees walk in it, people in the community walk in it, and then it's on display here at Galleria. What can people see and what can people expect if they come by?
Well, we had 16 project teams, 16 offices that worked to do these beautiful garments, so they can see all.
I'm glitching again. I'm so sorry. I don't know what's happening. I'm just glitching out.
The garments, what they're made of, the descriptions, and they can just be a part of the fun that we had when we used our creativity to make these garments.
Now, you were actually able to walk in the fashion show as you have done for several years. Talk about the garment that you wore and kind of what it stands for.
I wore a garment called the Year of the Dragon, and it was made out of reusable red cups and different party materials that would be used to celebrate the Chinese Year of the Dragon. It was so much fun. The Austin office is the one who created the garment, and I affectionately wore it, and I had a wonderful time doing so.
It's a spectacular piece of fashion, a spectacular piece of art, also a spectacular way to put forth a movement and to potentially inspire people. What do you hope that people learn when they stop by at Galleria and see these garments up?
Well, I hope that people learn that architecture can be fun and that we are inspired truly by creativity, but I hope they're also inspired by the fact that we're using reused and repurposed materials and that they can think about sustainability in their own lives and how they can use sustainable materials and things like that.
The exhibit is actually going to be up until June 23rd. We're right here on level 1 between Tommy Bahama and Sephora, and I had to draw your attention to one more in particular. This is water floating pollution. It really made me think. It's made of bottle caps, plastic, and soda tabs. We'll put all the details on our website, cw33.com. And gosh, I just encourage you to take some time to really look at the details. I suspect that it will impact you greatly.
Very cool. Very cool to see. We need more trashy on movements around the nation. I do want to move on to this video that I saw about an ex-employee giving her theories about why they went bankrupt. I don't know how to spell, which is fine. Let's see. Where's the video? I saw it somewhere. My theories. Let's see. Give me 1 second here. Trying to find it. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Found it.
Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Angel Baby Kyra. Make sure you like and subscribe. Follow me on TikTok and Instagram. I am outside today because my baby is sleeping in my room, so I didn't want to wake him up because he was not wanting to take his nap. We're outside, so bear with me. I feel like Forever 21 is closing. Like, they've been through bankruptcy a lot. I just think this time, obviously, they're not coming back from it. So Forever 21 was a job that I wanted when I was like 16. I really wanted to work there, and eventually I got hired when I was probably like 18 or 19, so I was in college and going to school full time. So I came in as a sales associate. My manager at the time, my supervisor, she left, and then this other manager came in, which she was an older lady, and she was absolutely like insane, like bullying like young teenage girls. It was really insane. And then I became a visual merchandiser. I was on the visuals team, which I absolutely loved. I loved working with the people on my visual team. It wasn't them that I had a problem with, it was the management and the corporate people and the CEO, which we'll get into. So I really enjoyed it. The thing was, it was very like mentally draining because I would have to wake up super early. I had to wake up at like 2:30, come into work at 3, and then leave about like 12 or 1, which a lot of times I would do overtime, and then go to school and then repeat. It was really draining because again, I went to school full time and then I worked pretty much full time, but they kept me right under so they wouldn't have to give me benefits, which is another thing of like exploitation that these companies do, because they don't want to like, you know, give you the benefits and pay you like a full-time worker. So I was on the visuals team.
That's crazy. I like how she uses sarcasm as the same way I use it to like deal with like the messed up world of the fashion industry. I love her.
For a bit after I was a sales associate because the visual supervisor saw that I had like really good work ethic and wanted me on his team. He felt like I could do it. Which was true, I could do it because I was also going to school for visual merchandising and management at the time. I absolutely loved this job. I would adjust the mannequins, I would make the outfit. Each room was a different girl, so it was like, you know, based on that aesthetic. So that's kind of like clothes we would put in certain rooms, or like where we put the fixtures, or like what shoes would go in their accessories or whatever. So it was a lot of work, but I really enjoyed it. It was tiring, but I loved working with my team. It was a lot better than being a sales associate or being on the cash wrap because I just hated like interacting with people. So I pretty much interacted with my visual team. It was so shocking to see how much shipment we would get in our tiny little backstock room. It was insane because like we had no space on the floor. They're expecting us to fit all of this stuff on the floor, and then we had the sales section, and then that was a mess, and then it was this whole thing, and I'm like, why are you like ordering this stuff when it doesn't sell? We had to work with corporate, so I did meet the CEO. I did talk to him, and I did tell him like, hey, I'm not getting paid visual merchandiser wage, which is probably $3 or $4 more than the sales associate wage. And you know, I told my supervisor, I was like, that's not fair. Like, I need to be paid visual merchandiser. Our team should be paid what our roles are, because I was doing more than being a sales associate, looking at line sheets, seeing what we have, taking inventory of whatever is coming in, you know. And it was very dehumanizing, it's very degrading, and I didn't feel like I was being treated like, I wouldn't feel like I was treated like a person. So they just saw me as like, you know, something replaceable. And we would work with corporate, and they would come in with their Starbucks coffee, and they'd be like touching everything. They'd be like, oh, that's so cute. Oh, that's so cute. And then they'd be shopping at like 8 o'clock in the morning. And this is before we opened the store at 11. So they're coming around and they're pulling things out and they're just like, they're literally shopping. And then when it was like Christmas and it was like the Christmas sale or whatever, it would like keep like racks of like jackets that we had on sale. It was absolutely insane. I'm just like, and they'd show up like in their like Maseratis, like very nice like luxury cars, and then there's me like trying to like, you know, pay for my books and my tuition. It was just, the dichotomy was just so weird. I wasn't lazy. I worked very hard. I had a good work ethic. Like, and I was also struggling mentally at the time, so it was very difficult for me. Sometimes, you know, I'd have to like power through my panic attacks or whatever I was going through. It was undiagnosed BPD and bipolar. There was a lot of things going on, and my manager, before I became a visual merchandiser, was a kind of manager where my grandfather had passed away, and I told her I wouldn't be able to make it in today for my shift. And she told me, well, can you come after his funeral? Like, that's the kind of person she was. Or when I was like super...
No, why would they say that to her? I feel like corporate America is like literally a way to excuse people of selling your soul to the devil. Yep, corporate America may sell your soul to to America. I don't even know what I'm saying. Corporate America, man, just steals your soul. What is this for? What is corporate America doing? Not only are they killing the planet, they're destroying people's livelihood and well-being. Yeah, your family member died. Can't you just keep working? Can't you just keep working? What?
Super sick and I had the stomach bug and I couldn't get out of bed. She was like, okay, but can you come like an hour later? It was absolutely horrible. And then when I was a sales associate, it was my day off and I told her I couldn't come in because I was doing something already or I just didn't want to come in. She would like dock off my hours in retaliation. So it was a very stressful and toxic work environment in that way. And then also some of the girls were like pretty catty, but not all of them, contrary to popular belief. Just some of them that were like catty or whatever, but a lot of them are very nice. I think that Forever 21 is a long time coming. I think that it's due to their bad management, the CEO not understanding the demographics that he was like trying to aim for. I heard that he was from H&M. He's like this bald white guy or something. He was like European. You know, it was really scary telling him like, you know, pay us like merchandisers wages.
I like how she put in, I don't know why I gave a description of the CEO who happens to be a white man that has no fashion taste. But hey, maybe that's the whole reason why the brand failed. I think so. I think a lot of these brands, CEOs and executives, especially in corporate America, are so out of touch. Like, have you gone to a retail store before? Have you worked in a retail store before? Like, go on the floor. Go and interact with customers. Figure out who they actually are versus, like, saying these are who they are. Like, you gotta actually work the job to do your job. Like, you can't be in your offices and theorize about, like, customers and their demographics and their interests. Like, you actually have to, like, be there to see what's actually happening. But it's really hard to get up from your fancy chair and like go work retail. Your shoes are gonna get dirty. You're gonna have to deal with customers.
It's just so scary, but I didn't really care. I was like, I'll leave anyway. Like, even if they don't pay me, I'm just gonna leave. So what ended up happening was that I left, and then 2 weeks later, they like gave them like merchandisers wage or whatever. And at that point, I was kind of like over it. I was like, it's not really worth it. It's still a toxic work environment, you know. Like, I think I need to like move on and find like, you know, either focus on school or like do something else that's beneficial to me. So I really loved the job. I really liked the visual merchandising aspect, but the toxicity was just not worth it for me. Forever 21, you know, we're starting in LA in Highland Park, you know, humble beginning. They have like, you know, the John 316 under the bag, which I always found so ironic because of how their management treated us. Like, not very Christian-like, if you ask me. They are a couple, I believe, a Korean immigrant couple, and they had moved here and then they started their shop for clothes. So Forever 21 has been in business for over 40 years. Obviously, like any other business, have been through like ups and downs per usual. That's not a non-common thing for businesses. It was first known as Fashion 21, and it was founded by Jin Suk Do Won Chang. I'm sorry if I said it wrong. After they immigrated from South Korea to LA in 81. So they opened their first store in 84, so 3 years later after they had immigrated here. Only 11,000 in savings. And today, you wouldn't be able to do that in LA. That wouldn't even pay for you breathing in LA. And according to Forbes, a couple hit 700,000 in revenue the first year. So they opened a new store every 6 months. Now this is where I personally believe where they were messing up, because they were expanding way too rapidly. They could not keep up with the cost of maintaining the stores and like property. wise things, if that makes sense. So it says that their revenue peaked at about 4.1 billion in 2015, and like I think this was like the peak era of Forever 21 because this was like, you know, the whole Tumblr thing going on, King Kylie era. Like this was like the it girl, trendy Instagram, whatever, you know what I mean. Forever 21 employed more than 43,000 people worldwide in hundreds of stores. Obviously, by the name, Forever 21 is targeting a lot of young people, and to be 21 again would be insane, but everyone kind of wishes they were still 21. Maybe not. They lured in their extremely young fan base demographic, not extremely young, but like young, you know, teenage girls, kind of adolescents, and into like, you know, early 20s or whatever, with low price clothing. The clothing tops for $5 and shoes for under $30. As they began to expand, the stores were pretty much all located in California, so this is very much a California thing, until they expanded even more in 1995. So they opened one at Miami's Mall of America. Flagship stores also opened in Texas, Miami, LA, Chicago, and Canada. Then it grew from 7 international stores in 2005 to 262 stores a decade later. I don't know about you, but that's kind of a lot of stores. And 2014, it says it operated about 600 locations, growing to 800 stores worldwide, with 549 in the US, and more than 70 locations exceeded 35,000 square feet. So I want to talk about how big the stores are for a second, because I feel like that plays into a lot. I feel like a lot of people are talking about it, is that these stores were massive. The store that I was at was 2 stores, and it was massive. Smaller stores that were like maybe in Montebello, or the 1-story stores, you know, were a little bit more smaller. I can think of like the Brea Mall, kind of the smaller 1-story. Pasadena was one of the biggest stores. I think that was maybe 3 stories, and there's like little sections in the sections. Also, the Arcadia Mall, I think, used to have the downstairs, which was, and it was 3 stories, and that was like a pretty big space. So they would really hone in on these like big spaces because they wanted to have like a large selection of clothing. And I feel like this is identical to how Shein has a large amount of clothing. So I feel like they're trying to imitate that kind of fast fashion trade of having like tons and tons and tons of choices. Throughout this whole time, it was privately owned. It was a family business. And in 2008, their daughters Linda and Esther worked at the company together, and Linda would be running the marketing department, and Esther leading graphic design, visuals, and more. Mom Jin Suk, meanwhile, was Forever 21's chief merchandising officer, and dad Do Wan was CEO. I think it was cool that it was family business for a bit, you know, but I feel like obviously things change, and there's a lot of like really blurred boundaries when it's like a family business. I think like that probably contributed to like a lot of the mishandling of money, mishandling of buying, which was I saw a lot in the store, was that these buyers had no idea like what not to buy and what to buy. They would buy like 100 of like these horrid pants that would never sell. I'm the one who's putting these out because they're telling me to put these out, and I'm the one who's seeing whether or not customers like it, and I'm the one who's seeing that it's going to the sales section. Anything that was super micro trendy, that wasn't kind of like a staple piece or something that wasn't gonna last for more than 3 weeks, I knew exactly where I was gonna go, and it was gonna go in the sales section. I tried telling these buyers, and these buyers would disregard me because what do I know, right? So they lost a lot of money because they were buying these things that they didn't need for their specific demographic at whatever mall they were at. It would just end up in the back stock or in sales, and in our sales stuff would go ship out to another store, and they try to put it in the sales section. So it was just, it makes sense why they went downhill. So in 2019, which was the year that I got hired or somewhere around there, Forever 21 filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. So I remember talking to this about my coworkers that they went into bankruptcy, and they're like, it's no big deal. They're always in bankruptcy. It always happens. Which I was like, okay, but I got used to it. So the U.S. Bankruptcy Court for the District of Delaware at the time, they shifted their consumer preferences to e-commerce and shopping more ethically and sustainably minded. Paired with mounting debt and declining foot traffic, Forever 21 faced many challenges. So I feel like this is the start of the declining of mall culture and the rise of online shopping, which obviously online shopping has been there for a while, but I feel like this is kind of ramping up the like steady decline of in-person shopping in malls. According to the filings, it plans to close up to 178 stores in the US and most of its locations in Asia and Europe. So they would continue operations in Mexico and Latin America. 4 months after filing for bankruptcy, Forever 21 needs to deal to sell its business. In its bankruptcy filing, estimated assets were on par with liabilities in the range of $1 billion to $10 billion. In 2020, in February, they had entered an agreement to sell off its assets for $81.1 million.
She knows all the tea about this brand. She did all the digging. Oh my gosh. You would think that they would hire buyers that are really in touch with the target audience that they want to reach, but to see that she knew that this wasn't going to sell, I think it just shows the disconnection between what they thought was going to work and what actually could work. I think the not being on site could have dealt with a lot of like their failures as a brand, but It seems like they grew too fast and too big for their own well-being, that they just lost control of everything, and they couldn't really compete against Shein and all these other major brands now moving to online. I think it can be hard for traditional ways to change. For example, like an older person may struggle shifting their ways or shifting their habits. So maybe a brand that is being held by someone maybe older or people with more traditional values of like how retail should work, maybe they didn't see the online space as that strategic or like that smart of a move to go towards. So who knows? But it just seemed like they were very out of touch when like the one thing they have to do is sell fashionable clothing. So if they don't even know what a 21-year-old likes, then like what did they know? Like what were they doing?
Million to consortium of buyers, including mall owner Simon Property Group and Brookfield Property Partners, as well as brand management firm Authentic Brands Group. As part of the acquisition, ABG and Simon each own 37.5% of the fast fashion retailer, while Brookfield will take control of the remaining 25% of the Forever 21 intellectual property and operating business. Not to mention they were getting adders during this time, or maybe before, or somewhere around this time, that they're stealing from smaller artists. They also used Ariana's image without her copyright or her consent or something. They would be in tons of lawsuits. So I feel like a lot of people don't talk about that, how they were also in like a lot of intellectual property lawsuits, which obviously is money, but they ended up like, paying it off or whatever most of the time, so they just continue to keep infringing on intellectual property. So it says Forever 21 is a powerful retail brand with incredible consumer reach and a wealth of untapped potential, ABG founder, chairman, CEO Jamie Salter said in a statement. We're looking forward to working with the Forever 21 team and our global partners. Together we will revitalize the brand's core business and connect with audiences around the world with new product offerings and experiences. Obviously they did not do that. So I remember this happening, like the mall landlord Simon Property Group and Brookfield Asset Management. They also tried to save Aeropostale, which I think Aeropostale is still around, in 2016, and then they jumped on to like Forever 21 and JCPenney, and I believe JCPenney is also going bankrupt, or am I incorrect? Bill O'Neill is the second largest individual shareholder of Authentic Brands Group, making him one of the owners of Forever 21, Barney's New York, JCPenney, Reebok, Winston Hunter. I think it's just due to like, obviously like why Forever 21 obviously went downhill and ended up closing forever. And I think it's really sad that, it was a not a small family business, but it was a family business, and now it's like ending. I think it's just due to like, obviously like state capitalism, state of our economy. No one can really afford anything anymore, especially with the prices of Forever 21. They had to like up it. It is fast fashion. They do use slave labor in China. Not all labor or fashion labor in China is exploitative, but a large majority is, because they don't have laws that prevent those kinds of things. Not saying it doesn't happen here. What is the takeaway with the fall of Forever 21? I think that people are starting to see that some giant like Forever 21 closing its doors. I think people are realizing that the constant cycle of cheap trends doesn't just like end up in landfills and stuff. I think it also harms obviously the people that are involved, whether it's associates at your local mall or the people who are making the garments. It just keeps us in this loop of constantly consuming and consumption, feeling like you need a new item every week or a haul every week. But there are ways that we can make changes, even though they might seem like small changes, which a lot of them are. I feel like personally Gen Z and generations now are understanding the importance of sustainability and also more aware of consumption. Things obviously that we can do is buy secondhand. I'm fearing that all this Forever 21 clothing will be labeled by Depop sellers as vintage or whatever. I don't know. Is it gonna go up in price? Maybe, maybe not. I'm not. Oh my god. Other things that we can do, obviously, like I said, is buying secondhand, supporting ethical brands when we can, which I know the issue with that is price tag and people not being able to afford it and the accessibility factor. But if you are able to, let's say, get a well-made quality shirt from someone like Big Bud Press, I would suggest putting in the investment when you can, because these are going to be staple pieces in the long run and have longevity compared to that $5 t-shirt you got at somewhere like Forever 21. Oh well, maybe not anymore because they're like closed, but you know what I mean. Not only will this help you build a sustainable wardrobe, you're not going to be spending money on getting new t-shirts because they like thinned out in the wash. Also, I do want to say, if you do have fast fashion clothing like from Shein, for example, you can have the longevity of the clothing item. You just have to make sure that you're washing it the correct way or looking at the tags to make sure that you're using the correct water temperature, using the right cycle, because doing too much of a harsh cycle obviously will disintegrate the fibers and it won't be wearable anymore. So if we do need to have and buy fast fashion, we can still take care of the clothing and make it last long as much as we can. I think that's something that a lot of people don't talk about, is that if we do need to buy fast fashion, let's say we can't buy sustainable at all, even if it's just once a month to get a quality t-shirt, then we can have and extend the longevity of our already owned fast fashion items. So I think what we can take away from this situation with the fall of Forever 21 is that the fast fashion model isn't made for longevity. It is made for overconsumption cycle and continually profiting off of the fear of missing out of people who are constantly trying to fit in and trying to feel like they are feeling avoiding themselves, which overconsumption often is coinciding with shopping addiction and also just trying to get that boost of serotonin when you buy a new item. So I think that we do need to be more mindful and think critically of the choices that we're making, because little choices do add up. There's a lot of things going on in the world with pretty much everything, and I feel like that the closing of Forever 21 is definitely an end to a chapter and a very kind of bleak look into the future of clothing and mall culture. So thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Is your Forever 21 closed yet? I think they're supposed to be closed by May. Yeah, so RIP Forever 21. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Very interesting. She explained it very well. There's obviously a number of reasons why they went downhill, and I do think the growing interest in sustainable fashion was one of the reasons why they struggled to compete. But amidst of Shein, or giants like Shein, Forever 21, and its outdated clothing and collections, I think just could not meet the cuts anymore. Like, they could not compete. They cannot race anymore in the race. I liked how she explained everything. She doesn't really focus on sustainable fashion. She does a lot of like commentary on different topics, but I really liked her take on her experiences as a retail worker. We don't really hear that often enough, or see the inside perspective of someone that's actually been living through these things and her experience. And to the fact that they didn't pay her a merchandiser pay until she was willing to like almost leave says a lot about corporate America and just like their unwillingness to treat their retail workers fairly and ethically. So it's unfortunate what she went through. Like, I would not want anyone to go through retail work, honestly. Like, it's grueling work. Even if you're a visual merchandiser, you're still on your feet for 8 hours. You're still dealing with people, even if it's your visual team, even if it is creative work. Like, you're in a very tough setting. So I feel for the retail workers out here struggling to make a living. So yeah, very interesting to hear. So we are going to move on for the matter of time. So there is a lot of other initiatives happening around the world and states, like I've been saying. So another thing that has happened is Iowa is actually hosting a recycled runway show featuring fashion designers. So I think it's actually, we're in Ohio. Ohio, where are you? To be Ohio, to be Ohioan. What even is this? Queen of Hearts, a sustainable dress by Catherine, is installed as part of an exhibit in the Visual Arts Building on Wednesday, April 16, 2025. Interesting. So basically there is going to be a show in Iowa, and they're going to show their love for thrifted fashion, and viewers are going to take away the power of thrifted fashion. Nice. Someone says recycled fashion, I think, is a way of finding materials that have been discarded or unused and giving them a second life. Some people do it by reclaiming pieces of fabric from thrift stores and making making articles by combining pieces in cool ways. Nice. So that's just another example of like, there's people across the nation, across the world, doing things because they believe in using what's already in existence and just using creativity, imagination, a bit of effort to do something new and creative. Like, it's not that hard. It's just, it takes effort. It does take effort. And there's other things happening as well. Like the Fashion Revolution Week is happening next week, which I'm super excited about. Fashion Revolution has been around for a while. They're all about advocacy of sustainable fashion. And they have this like Fashion Revolution Week that happens from the 22nd to the 27th. And it's made up of a lot of different ambassadors across the nation, from Africa, Asia, Central America, and the Caribbean, Europe, North America, Oceania, and South America. I got my start from this group, and I'm really grateful for them. They're an amazing, very dedicated movement, and they really do give out a lot of information, a lot of resources. I got exposed to them back in like 2017. It's been a while, and I do want to show some of their videos so you can see like some of the things that they do. But yeah, the Fashion Revolution Week is one of their most active weeks where people are just doing like clothing swaps. They're like providing resources. They're doing like meetups. They're having webinars, all the things. So very exciting time, very exciting time. So let's see what they did last year to give an example. So for example, like they had this sort of webinar.
Can you please just hear me out? No.
Crafting Futures, Artisan Voices, Dialogues for Sustainable Practices. Back in 2023, 2022.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is a conversation as part of Crafting Futures project. My name is Alejandra Misray. I work at the National University of Tucumán, and I'm here in representation of Reddit, the inter-university.
So that's something that was translated. But yeah, they do have a lot of ambassadors, so we can definitely check out their social media. Their Instagram is one of the locations they're most active with, and yeah, they have like a Menden Public Day event, so they have a lot of events happening all across the nation. So Canada, USA, there's things happening. Brazil, Argentina, all gonna have a Menden Public Day. Very nice, very cool. Ireland, Spain, Egypt. So a massive movement. There you go. So yeah, if you ever want to support something that's very educational, very wholesome, very action-oriented, you can definitely join Fashion Revolution. I do want to watch another one of their videos. I just want to see the ambassadors. Let's see, what is this? Fashion Revolution Malaysia made this video.
Like, why are you buying secondhand clothes? Like, is it clean? Secondhand clothes, how is it really, you know?
Not knowing where they come from, bringing bad luck. There's a stigma to buying secondhand clothes.
There is just so much secondhand clothing in the world that needs to be recirculated and needs to be rehomed. I don't think people understand the scale. There's no shortage, truly. Get so many pieces brought into Loop, and people are telling us that they have a shopping problem, they have a shopping addiction problem, and I think it makes you realize the sheer and terrifying volume of clothing that exists in the world. Yeah. And kind of really does turn you off permanently from buying new a little bit.
Hi, my name is Emma Koo. Hi, my name is Bae.
Hi, my name is Adani.
I feel when we first launched Loop, the reception to it was so much more than what I was expecting. We have heard multiple times from consigners is that they want to sell their clothes. They either want to get rid of by donating or selling or passing it on to someone else, but their concerns were that these were pieces that held a lot of sentimental value to them, and they wanted to know that these pieces were going into good hands.
We all share this passion for style, fashion, sustainability, and doing something good for the environment and for the community. And yeah, that's how we thought that we should be the first curated consignment store for secondhand clothing.
So a lot of our customers do believe that there's sentimental value attached to their pieces, and a way that we try to encourage that as well is by getting our consigners to write stories or notes to give a little bit of context of where they bought the piece or any memories they had with the piece before deciding to sell it.
So we get consigners who bring in new pieces, and it's considered like a missed opportunity. So like this note, it says, "This bajukuro has been sitting in my wardrobe for quite some time. I put on weight and never got to wear them. Hopefully it'll be taken home and receive the love it deserves."
So this is a very special piece. The consignor told us that after school he used to go for knitting classes with aunties. His note says, "This piece was hand knitted by me when I was 12 and I'm 24 now." So it's a 12-year-old hand knitted sweater. Very cute.
I think there's something very special about finding a piece and knowing there's only one of it and you get to take it home. It feels very meant to be made for you when you find a piece that you love in a secondhand store.
Most of the things in my wardrobe are now secondhand. I shop from my own store. Guilty. And I'm proud of it. Like I like that every piece that I have has a story.
Even when we see like two of the same thing in our store, it's like, wow, it's such a rarity. But yeah, for me at least, this is my go-to. This is my like first choice for shopping.
Initially, my mom kind of freaked out a bit. She was like, "Why are you buying secondhand clothes? Like, is it clean?" First thought, "Is it clean?" I said, "Yes, we cleaned it before." And now she kind of loves that we're giving clothes like a second chance instead of just throwing them in the landfills, etc. So she's on board now.
Oh, why not, right? You want to go buy like those fancy clothes in malls, and it's like you can find the same thing at the thrift store if you're lucky. So for me, it's just like, oh, something new, and it's also cheap. It's perfect for me because in this economy.
Okay, I think one of the challenges that people have also shared with us that they experience in buying secondhand is that when you go into a secondhand store, you never know what you're gonna get. And I think that's where we try to accommodate to that through curation by your style or meant for a certain occasion that you're shopping for, or is your size.
Mostly like I struggle with pants because it's kind of hard to find my size.
So it's definitely like a new experience trying to find what fits me, because it's kind of hard to find. I'm a plus size.
But I'm really happy that Hello Loop now has like a plus size option, so we have more variety.
In closing the loop of like buying and selling, we've had a customer will come in, they'll buy a dress, they'll post it on Instagram, we'll repost it, and the original consignor will be like, "Oh my god, that's my dress."
Then we have another friend who consigned a bunch of pieces with us, and then somebody else came in aware of this but had bought one of his pants, and they turned out to actually be friends. And the next time that they were hanging out together, the one who consigned basically was looking at the guy's pants to sell. I think that's always very heartwarming and feels like a little win. So it happens a lot, I think, and it's always just so nice, honestly, because it really does build that sense of community that we have people who are selling their pieces here, buying their pieces here, and all of us are connected in more ways than one, I guess.
So wholesome. Fashion Revolution Malaysia. There you go. The video was so well crafted. It kind of inspired me to like do videos like that. I've been struggling to make YouTube videos, but that one was such a great example of like how to weave in storytelling and just little memories and talk to other people. I love that video. Very inspiring, very cool. But yeah, that's happening next week. So if you want to be part of that, that is happening all across different places of the globe. No matter where you're from, you'll most likely find something. So fashionrevolution.org. .org is where you can find them. Alrighty, so we're going to move on to actually talk about a circular sustainable fashion week that's happening in Madrid. Very exciting times. So apparently they want to become the capital. Apparently they want to become the capital of sustainable fashion, and they basically explained as consciousness about environmental issue grows, companies and institutions are becoming more aware of the necessity of developing sustainable and ethical business models. The fashion industry is one of the most environmentally unfriendly. Its impact is enormous in terms of water consumption and carbon emissions. That's why more and more associations are raising their voices and coming up with initiatives to raise awareness about the importance of sustainability in fashion. Okay, so one of these projects is the Circular Sustainable Fashion Week Madrid, which will be celebrating its 9th edition from the 21st to the 26th of April. Paloma Lopez, director of the project, joined them, the RNE Audio, to explain this fashion week. And they will be basically also learning about the Holy Week that's present there. If you listen to this podcast, there's a chef there that's gonna come and support. There's this whole podcast thing. Let's listen to a bit. I think it's in Spanish.
Y disfruta de los programas de RNE y nuestros podcasts originales.
Podcasts originales.
Radio Exterior de España.
English language service.
Okay.
As consciousness around environmental issues grows, companies and institutions are becoming more aware of the necessity of developing sustainable and ethical business models. The fashion industry is one of the most environmentally unfriendly. Its impact is enormous in terms of water consumption and carbon emissions.
That's why more and more associations are raising their voices and coming up with initiatives to raise awareness about the importance of sustainability in fashion. One of these projects is the Circular Sustainable Fashion Week Madrid, which will be celebrating its 9th...
What? Okay, I think we're back now. Nope, we're not back. Let's see. Stream is healthy. Let's do this.
Environmental impact.
After that, we'll learn about torrijas, a traditional Spanish Holy Week dessert with Roberto Enna. You're listening
to Rodrigo Vázquez de Prada
and of economy. Spain's economy
spending and requested Spain eliminate the Google tax. A tax he believes there is
Wait a minute.
English language broadcast of Spanish
of demand, and that have a very difficult time to making themselves known. The conventional circuit.
With this edition, what have you planned for this year?
This year, as you said, is from April 21st to 26th, and as every year, it will be three catwalks. The first one, Queen Upcycling, where all the creators are made from recycled materials. The second one is eco-design, where the principle of the eco-design are applied in terms of zero waste pattern making, new material, resource reduction, etc. And the last one is catwalk 17, where the design of the two previous catwalks has to miss their design, and we pay tribute to the sustainable development goals.
Okay, so I think it, wait, what? It said it was going to happen the 21st to the 26th, but then I see this, and it seems like they already did some sort of presentation.
Y bueno, también como novedad tenemos a Botkine, que
Oh, okay, so they're just explaining what's going to happen Very interesting.
Then will be also be two days of conference, which will take place at the University of Nebrija on April 22nd, with a wide spectrum of the speakers from public administration and initiatives from all over the world. And our more precious moment in this edition is will be with the conference of Kate Fletcher, because it's a very great reference for all of us. And Kate Fletcher is going to be in Centro Superior de Diseño de Moda de Madrid at the Polytechnical University at April 23rd. Kate Fletcher is one of the most important references of our sector. Is a brave figure who has put a mirror in front of the textile industry, and whose speech in her book Air Logic aligns well with the objective of circular sustainable fashion week of Madrid. For her, for us, we have to put the interests of the planet before economic interest. So for us, is very, very important to be with her this edition and align our values with her.
So you have a lot going on during this week, and now, as you were saying, you are collaborating with a lot of associations, with a lot of institutions. Now, one of these is the program for the endorsement of forest certification, the PEFC Spain, because you give out a sustainable fashion award. Can you tell us a little bit about this? What do you take into account for this recognition?
Yes. Is for the second consecutive year that PEFC present the PEFC Sustainable Fashion Awards to 3 collections that take into consideration aspects such as the origin of the fabric, certification, proximity, circularity, upcycling, functionality, timelessness, or inclusivity and social impact. It's a very special award because PFF Spain are with us from the beginning of this fashion week. So in this edition, the 3 winners are announced on April 26th. And Ana Belén Noriega Bravo, General Director of the company, explained the link between forest and fashion through the fashion through the program Fashion Change Forest Stay campaign is developing internationally to promote circularity and more sustainable fashion based on forest-based fibers with the PFFC certificate. So it's very, very important for us to have this recognition in this fashion week.
Well, we can't wait to hear more about this award and who will be the winner this year. Paloma Lopez, Director of the Circular Sustainable Fashion Week. Tell us, how is the industry of sustainable fashion doing in Spain?
Well, you know, there is no sustainable fashion industry as such, you know. There are various initiatives that are, you know, the expression in Spanish, Pepito Grillo, as they usually say in Spanish, and I think in English is something like that, Jimmy Cricket or something. Yeah, it's true. And something like the voice of the conscience of the sector. From the association I chair, Spanish Association of Sustainability, Innovation and Circularity in Fashion, through our team of expert consult, the Loop Alliance, we are collaborating with the traditional sector in order to help them to make that transition toward practice more appropriate to what the new European legislative strategy in textile requires. This new legislation addresses issues such as eco-design, STEM producer responsibility, and all that it entails. Until now, it was a very unregular sector, and now the legal requirements are going to be many, and everyone is concerned, a lot of concerned, about adapting, especially in terms of waste management, labeling, digital passport, due diligence, and emission reduction. It's a very complicated moment for the sector, and as I said, there isn't a sustainable fashion sector as such. We are trying to take the traditional sector from our field, so we are working together with my association in order to this proposal.
Do you think that consumers are conscious about sustainability in fashion?
Good question. It's as well, it's complicated. Consumers are increasingly better informed of what is happening. They have more data, more knowledge on how damage the fast fashion and ultra fast fashion are, but this paradoxically doesn't indicate that this knowledge has changed their consumption habits. The latest reports indicate that in the past 5 years, the consumption of fast fashion has doubled. Terrible. In my opinion, it allows for very aggressive campaign of marketing that the big companies are making. Very dishonest business practice that make it very difficult the consumers to transform their habits. Campaigns like brands like Shein or Temu that all the day around the media are send their message are terrible and are very, very damaged. Sales are fast, very cheap, with many. It's very easy to return the products that you are buying, and this produces a huge carbon footprint and overexploitation of resources we can not afford, So the consumer are awareness about the big problem with the climate change and why is this, but are continually attacked for very special offer and very complicated. Don't be don't be fall in the temptation, So for me, it's no. No, they have more information, but no more conscious.
I'm guessing that it also has to do with the prices of the clothing, sustainable and ethical clothing. How can, as consumers, how can we make sure that what we are buying is ethical, that it's sustainable?
To be sure that they are buying ethical and sustainable fashion, there is a factor that is very relevant: the price. If you are buying very cheaply, rest assured that it has not been manufactured ethical or sustainability. The consumer must ensure that they are buying ethical when they are giving all the necessary.
Okay, so there is a lot of information there on this radio show featuring what's happening in Madrid that's hoping to become the capital of sustainable fashion. Very, very interesting. If you happen to be in Spain and want to attend, they have separate links for the events. They're going to have a conference with Kate Fletcher, a conference in general for their fashion initiatives, and then they're going to have a fashion show and then an eco design show. So all of those have their individual signups. If you want to learn more, you should definitely go on their Instagram. All the links are there in their bio, and it leads you to an Eventbrite for their events. Most of them are free, and then the fashion shows are about for like $4 around there. So that's interesting. But yeah, that's a very lovely initiative that they're taking on to really take shape their fashion industry to become a more sustainable, more eco-friendly, and to really push initiatives forward. So very excited to see that. Hopefully if they have one next year, I could, fingers crossed, maybe even go. That's the goal. I don't know. I really want to travel the world and see these things happen. Like, I would love to go to Spain, but also like Iowa and all these other places that are hosting like sustainable fashion shows. Like, I even saw that New Mexico had a sustainable fashion week. So the New Mexico State University has their annual sustainable fashion show returning soon. That was a design that was made from last year. Very beautiful. But basically they're going to host this. Oh, they actually hosted it yesterday in their campus, and it just showcases sustainable fashion designs, and it's been their 5th one. But their annual sustainable fashion show brings together their design and merchandising students in so many ways, says Kelly Cleary Coffin, associate professor in fashion merchandising and design and co-advisor of the AG Fashion Club, and says our event team and marketing team plan and promote the event while our designers, directed by Insoc On, focus on the creative side. And the year we're adding a styled collection with upcycled pieces to reflect the value of repurposing clothing. And so this year's theme was Bohemian Jungle, bringing together elements of nature, culture, and fashion. And so students used recycled, repurposed, and utilized in different sustainable materials this year. And so that's really cool to see. I think they are definitely part of the change. And the fashion show was a free initiative for the public, and there was a lot of different activities, including a social media station, live music, free flowers, and focused on sustainability and the environment. So in a way, I wish I was in New Mexico to look at that. And they have like other images of their fashion shows over here. I wonder if I can take a look at them. No, I can't. I don't know why it's not letting me pull it up, but yeah. Oh, there we go. So that is from last year. A lot of natural lighting. Very cool. Oh wait, let's go back. This seems to be from like soda cans, like the metal on top where you open the soda can. This seems to be a really cool like urban piece. Very nice. Oh, we already saw this one. Very cool. Oh, I love this that's hanging down from it. I think they attached other denim pieces to like the existing denim. Very creative, and then put patches on the jeans and then accessorized. So had a lot of fun doing that, seems like. And then yeah, here's the final image. They use this like little shimmering fabric. Very cool. We can definitely try to see if there's a sustainable fashion Agi Fashion Week on YouTube that we can watch. I always love watching these fashion shows just because it gives so much inspiration, and it makes me believe that like college students will become the next wave of change, and they'll actually like really, you know, push for the needle in the future. And looking forward to like seeing what sustainability pressure they put into brands that are failing to even like curb carbon emissions. So like, let's look at this.
Student Union, this year's theme will be Bohemian Jungle, bringing together elements of nature, culture, and fashion. Much like these clothes from last year, this year's designs will be made from recycled and repurposed materials like old skirts, magazines, even burlap sacks made from, or that come from a coffee shop.
The way that cut off, I think this was actually last year, so let's look at this. Oh, it's from their school too, so let's see.
Merchandising. The fashion industry is one of the largest polluters in the environment because of the textiles and the dyes, and so we're always trying to find ways as an industry to curb that and to address those issues. And so this is a way for our students to get involved in that effort, and so they find ways to upcycle, recycle materials such as paper and plastic and different things that are already used, you know, in our everyday world.
Her face. I love this. I love it so much.
As well as upcycle, recycle, gently used clothing. So that's really fun for them, and they've just, it's amazing the designs that you'll see today.
I used basically no fabric. The only thing that's fabric is in the back, but everything was given to me, like the cards were given to me by family. I got cheap tablecloths from family as well to make the back.
My daughter's the one who designed this. She's the fashion designer, and she asked if I would wear one of her outfits, and I said sure. Well, since it has to be recycled stuff, you know, it's got like hoops underneath, almost like water hose hoops, I think is what it is, plastic hoops, and then it's got saran wrap, and then of course the cards, and it's got some duct tape. So, you know, I think she's really talented.
Every single design has a little piece of me, whether it is like color, whether it is like accessories, has a little piece of me and everything. Yeah, so it's basically like a hands-on experience. Like if this wouldn't happen, I wouldn't know that I was a designer. I wouldn't know what I would be doing with any of this material. And now that this is happening, you know, it's like you get to find who you are in the fashion industry, whether you like designing, whether you like the behind the scenes, the camera, you get to find your place within these shows.
Oh, so wholesome, so nice. This is what I love to see. And like he was explaining, the student was explaining, it's a way for you to find your identity and figure out your values and like implement it, have some fun, you know. So I love to see this. It already happened. So next year, hopefully it also continues to happen. Seems like the professor really cared about sustainability. So I'm sure it will continue on. But yeah, let's move on to not that, but let's see. Oh, okay. So there's going to be a Boise Fashion Week, and they're going to have sustainable fashion, creative designs. So again, another great example that across the nation there is a lot of things happening around sustainable fashion. So even when there seems to be all these major setbacks, even when brands seem complacent and not doing anything, they're not working towards carbon emissions really, they're not paying nonprofits they're affiliated with to like do the change that they're supposed to be doing. There are locals, there are designers, there are academics, there's so many people that actually care, and we have to like be reminded that this is a systemic issue. It's not our individual fault, but we can provide solutions. We can, you know, think out of the box to rethink what fashion can be like and function. So let's take a look at this. This is a fun one. Idaho, here we come.
And we have another Idaho to do for you. Boise Fashion Week is back, and this year it's taking over the iconic Boise Train Depot. It's going to be beautiful. It's taking place June 5th through the 7th. From sustainable designs to student collaborations, the three-day event highlights fashion with purpose. So we're joined by Laura and Brianna with Boise Fashion Week, as well as designer Sean Muscolo. She's back here in studio, and we're so excited to have her. You know, I'm a big fan of yours, Sean. All right, plus we also have some models here in studio. They're going to be showcasing a couple of those incredible looks that you'll get to see when you go to Boise Fashion Week. But first, ladies, I'd love to kind of set the stage about Boise Fashion Week. So help us understand how this is more than just fashion, right? And how this kind of sets apart from other traditional fashion shows that people would go to.
Right, so we are actually a nonprofit, and so we work with a bunch of different schools and local businesses, and that really sets us apart from typical fashion shows that are more so established brands. We're really reaching out to the local designers, local models, local beauties, and working with all of them and partnering with them to create this awesome showcase.
I love that. I'm hearing about a local.
Yes.
Okay, so it's a celebration of fashion in our community.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, all right. And then also, too, I understand there's some student programs involved as well, like Paul Mitchell. Why is it so important to be highlighting and elevating the future designers?
Yeah, I would say that it's just important to showcase different levels. So for other fashion weeks, for example, like it's only established like ready-to-wear designers. But we really want to showcase all levels. So we have a really diverse range. So for example, June 5th is Student Day. So we have students showcasing, and again, we partner with Paul Mitchell to do hair and makeup, which is great. And then we have, you know, ready-to-wear designers and local boutiques and designers on the 6th and 7th. So I think it's really important to showcase a lot of diverse designers to really, inspire people to get into the fashion industry, and that it's not, super exclusive. Like anyone can be a part of it.
I love that. And also, too, I like the fact that you pointed out, that you've partnered with Paul Mitchell to do hair and makeup, because while we are here to really celebrate and be excited about the designs of the clothes, fashion is also hair and makeup, right? Like it brings the entire look together. So, so glad to have kind of that unity and that highlight and a platform for all portions of the look from head to toe.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. And then also, let's help people understand too, it's not just a fashion show though too, there's workshops taking place over 3 days. What can people expect when they attend?
Yeah, so throughout the whole 3 days, we have vendors that people can shop at. Again, local people that are selling either jewelry or their clothes or services, a lot of beauty services. Throughout the year, we offer workshops for models for runway learning or just community events. So we have those all on our website as well. So keep an eye out for those.
Oh, that's exciting. Okay, so you said you do workshops then for the runway models throughout the year. So if someone's interested in getting into the fashion industry,
Absolutely, yeah.
what a wonderful resource. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so Sean, so excited because you brought some new looks for us to see today. That's going to be a part of Boise Fashion Week. Tell us again about the inspiration of the pieces that you bought today and how they kind of fit into the theme of this year's show.
Well, on Devon, it's always about the material, but on Devon, go ahead and, can we look at her? Yeah.
Yes, there goes Devon right there.
This is a cord given to me by Willie and Leon Dean, who have a horse farm out in Nampa, and they gave me 20 pounds of this stuff. And I looked at it for about 6 months or maybe a year. Couldn't figure out what to do with it. And then I thought, it's orange. Bronco twine cowgirl dress, So I used some bank bags that I had and whipped this up into a dress.
That screams
Really
Idaho
cute,
to
huh?
me, right? Like when you see it, the Boise State, you got the cowgirl look there. And I do want to remind everybody at home that Sean's specialty in fashion design is she upcycles material. Trash. She calls it trash fabulous, right?
It is very trashy.
Yes, it's very trashy. It's lovely.
Even the lining is trash, so.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
100% recycled material right there.
Yeah.
Turned into a fantastic cowgirl look.
Yeah, gorgeous on Devon. And then this dress is made out of what the wine industry calls Frankencorks. I don't know if I want that touching my wine, but a lot of cheap wines and some expensive ones now too will use synthetic corks because it's easier to control what happens to the wine. You don't get cork taint or crumbly corks or any of that yucky stuff, but they're not biodegradable, so hits the environment,
Yeah.
Anyway, I thought this would be cute. When she shakes herself, it moves nice on
It
her.
does. It does. I can't imagine something better to wear going to Sunny Slope Wine Region here in Idaho, right?
And all the funny colors, right, for corks? Right?
That honestly, I think that fits her perfectly.
Fortunately, she's strong because that dress weighs about 6 pounds.
Oh, seriously? No kidding. And I love the crown on her. She looks absolutely adorable.
Cute, huh?
Yes.
Very cute on Cameron. Thank you, Cameron. And then we have the sultry beauty.
This
of
is
Ashley. Yep. Now, you guys remember, maybe you don't because you're all real young, when videotape was canceled by DVDs.
Yes.
And then later, when it was even more canceled by streaming services. And this stuff is all science fiction movies. The little video shop in my neighborhood went belly up, and they were stacking the videotapes into their dumpster, their 40-footer, because they couldn't just throw them in enough to fit them all. So they said, you take as much as you can carry, and I just walked away with most of the science fiction section.
So, Sean, what we are looking at then is the actual videotape.
Yeah.
You've used it, turned it into a gorgeous
knitted.
You knitted videotape into this phenomenal evening gown. I mean, that is stunning.
Yeah.
And the way that it catches the light.
She makes it look really good.
She's gorgeous too. Yes. But the dress is so amazing. Did you also do her headpiece as well?
Yeah. It's a little fascinator hat to go with it. So.
And is that made out of the same material?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Just absolutely phenomenal.
She's very talented.
She is
Well,
very
thank you.
talented. Yes. Yes.
And so is beautiful Ashley. She's just lovely in that dress. I really appreciate
She's working that dress perfectly.
Yeah,
I think you
Boise
made that for
Fashion
her.
Week has really been fantastic to work with. They have coached me along the way to make sure that what the audience gets, what the viewing public gets, is just a beautiful product. And I really want to appreciate them. And also the other fun thing is that I get to work with everybody from emerging artists, you know, new students and so forth, to very established couture companies in our area, wedding gown people.
Ooh,
So,
that's exciting.
yeah, it is.
Sean.
Fabulous.
Well, we are so grateful that you're a part of Boise Fashion Week, and we cannot wait to see also everything else that this year brings. Where can our viewers go so they can sign up for the workshops, they can sign up for the fashion show, they can attend, maybe even look into being a part of this in years to come as well?
Yeah, so BoiseFashionWeek.com has all our information, our mission, more about the team. We have a volunteer form, we have our events on there, so if you want to buy tickets, they are on sale for the 5th through the 7th, and yeah, all the information you may need will be on there. So
wonderful. Ladies, thank you so much. Big fan of Boise Fashion Week. So glad that we have this resource here in our community.
Right.
So needed.
Wonderful.
Sean, thank you
Oh,
for being
thank
a
you.
part of this and lending your talent. So impressive. Ladies, you all look absolutely gorgeous.
So cute, very fun to see. I think that is just such an amazing way to spread sustainable fashion on the local level. Shout out Boise for always doing creative work out there. I've been hearing a lot about them. But yeah, let's get into a bit of other news. So basically, oh my gosh, I wanted to talk about these Crocs. I don't know if you guys have seen these Crocs. It's a bit off topic, but I found them so pretty. It's just, I wonder if I could actually find them used. I like sometimes come across things I really, really like, and then I'm like, I don't know how I could get this used or where I could find them secondhand, but I just like to share in my moments of struggle because honestly, I fell in love with them, but I just don't know if I could actually like find a place I could sell them at a decent price because they're $500 on eBay, $400 here, $250 there. So it seems like there is options. But oh my gosh, they're so expensive. $350 for these. They're so cute though. They're so cute. I wonder if I could just DIY those and just buy the pearls and the studs and put them on. Like, I want this. I want these, but in my size. Oh, they're so cuties. But it's just $600 is way too much. Like these. Size medium 7. $600? No. Well, at least we know they're on eBay, but they're way out of my budget, so we're probably gonna not buy those. Probably just gonna end up DIYing a pair of Crocs, doing this sort of thing. I literally think they took normal Crocs and they just put crystals on it. Is those real? How do you confirm those are real? $700 for those? Oh no, that's a scam right there. Okay, never mind. I like them in theory, but in practice, I'm not paying that much. But at least we know on eBay they have some. But, oh, I also saw this interesting post by an organization I love. They're called the Clean Clothes Campaign. And they're always asking people to sign the accord. And basically they made the connection of how the Wranglers Wild West attitude is basically the same of how they're treating workers in the garment industry because they put their workers at risk. So if you don't know, Wranglers is the parent company of a brand called Contour Brands, and they source from more than 140 factories in Bangladesh and Pakistan. So far, they've been taking the Wild West approach: no laws, no external checks, just fending for yourself. And by signing the accord, Contour would have to finally allow independent safety inspectors into these supplier factories and guarantee basic health and safety provision for workers. If there's anything Levi's recent U-turn has shown us is that with enough public pressure and perseverance, we can get several brands to sign the accord. So I found this comparison very interesting to the Wild West. Basically, they're saying like the Wrangler Wild West attitude is they don't really care about basic health, safety rights, the endangered people who make their jeans, and they're just being reckless. We need more auditors. We need to actually study what's happening to prevent tragic events like Rana Plaza, where a lot of people died because the factory basically collapsed when they knew it was unsafe to go in there, but the brand, the factories all pressure them to go and work that day, even though the building was literally cracking in on them. So we don't want that to happen again, and they're just making sure, like, hey guys, like, sign the accord so that they can actually sign something called the International Accord and join what is a Pakistan program, which we'll get into. But they have also been pressuring other brands who have refused to join into the accord. That has been IKEA, Target, Decathlon, Amazon, Walmart, Tom Tailor, Lee brands. So let's look into this accord to learn a bit more if you haven't heard of it. I highly recommend getting behind Clean Clothes Campaign. They're one of the most action-packed and campaign-oriented organization that I've seen so far in sustainable fashion. So sorry if I'm glitching out. Let's see. I'm glitching out for reals. Okay, so the International Safety Accord. So basically 27,000 people have roughly signed this, but basically it says that more companies have to sign a binding safety accord to stop things like the Rana Plaza from ever happening again. And they're targeting this to protect workers in Bangladesh and Pakistan. So again, they need private auditors, and they're targeting companies that they know are working with major brands like Wrangler, so the Contour brand, and they have to deprioritize profit, basically. Like, they're pushing brands to deprioritize profit. And if you want to learn more about the accord, it's also linked under the Clean Clothes Campaign. But basically, there is an explanation video here. So let's go ahead and watch this. And then I probably will jump off in like 20 minutes. So let's look at this.
The reality of the global garment industry is a long way from the catwalk, the shopping mall, or the online store. Your favourite clothing brands often use factories in some of the world's poorest countries, where working conditions are unsafe, rights are non-existent, and poverty pay is rife. In 2013, more than 1,100 people were killed, and another 2,000 were injured when the Rana Plaza building in Bangladesh collapsed. It housed 5 garment factories, making clothes for Primark, Benetton, and many more. How can such abuses happen in the supply chains of household names that claim to be ethical businesses? Globalization means brands can and will pick the cheapest suppliers worldwide, wherever weak regulations and competition for jobs keep costs low. Many brands say they're already taking action to tackle the problems, but voluntary commitments didn't protect workers from poverty pay or prevent the Rana Plaza collapse. Nearly all the brands that had their clothes made in Rana Plaza had robust standards that the factories were supposed to adhere to. They did nothing to stop thousands being killed and injured in a completely preventable disaster. Global brands need to take responsibility and make themselves truly accountable for what goes into their profit margins. That means legally enforceable, worker-centred, transparent agreements directly between them and labour organisations. The global outcry and campaigning by organisations such as those that united in the Clean Clothes Campaign network after Rana Plaza led to the Accord on Fire and Building Safety in Bangladesh, signed by brands and Bangladeshi and international trade unions. The Accord holds factories accountable to international safety standards through inspections paid for by the brands, with results published and enforceable deadlines for improvements. It also creates a mechanism for workers to seek remedies for workplace violations beyond their immediate managers. The Accord is one example of how enforceable brand agreements can make a real difference. But it's not the only one. From freedom of association in Indonesia to combating sexual harassment in Lesotho, enforceable brand agreements are transforming the lives of some of the world's most mistreated workers. The brands won't change by themselves. Only when exposed to publicity and pressure from the workers' groups and campaigners behind the Clean Clothes Campaign's international network will they sign enforceable agreements. And only when they sign will they change. Help us to keep that pressure on.
Yeah, I highly recommend you support them if you haven't already, but they are trying to essentially protect dormant workers by having them be more informed and having also trade unions be more informed about their worker rights, to have a safe and healthy workplace, to mandate safety training programs, to have safety protections for them like fire exits, have independent and regular inspections of factories to ensure that they're safe, and to empower workers to raise complaints about their safety because they're often enough just harassed and submitted are forced to submit under fear because they often don't speak out because of harassment, or just they think they're going to lose their job if they say anything. So they're targeting major brands: IKEA, Amazon, Decathlon, Tom Taylor, Walmart, Contour Brands, basically Lee and Wrangler, VF Corp, Timberland, The North Face, Nike, Urban Outfitters, HBC, and Columbia Sportswear. So if you want to support this, feel free to sign the petition, email brands. You can also track their progress. I have a brand tracker as well. So here is all of this. This specifically targets Levi, but they also have another one for Wrangler. So again, a lot of petitions, a lot of things you can go and get behind. Highly recommend this if you're looking to take action and pressure brands to move forward in the correct path forward. So I am going to move on for the sake of time, but I did see this post on Instagram, and it reminds me of how a lot of people are thinking about thrifting now that the tariffs are increasing the prices of companies like Shein and other ultra fast fashion brands. So it says here, there is no tariffs on thrift stores, and if 1 million of us bought our next piece of clothing from a thrift store, we'd keep millions of pounds of textiles out of landfill, slash our carbon footprint, and funnel millions of dollars back into local jobs and nonprofits. I totally agree with this. Hopefully we see more people go to thrift stores. I did ask on my TikTok if thrift store workers had seen an increase of traffic in the thrift stores that they work at, and a lot of them said yeah, like there's a lot more people because of the increase of price of fast fashion. So maybe the tariffs will increase the interest of thrifted clothing, secondhand clothing, out of a budget-friendly, perspective from consumers or everyday people just worried about making ends meet. So that's, I guess, the positive of the tariffs, but it will probably create more workload for those working in thrift stores because often enough they're on their feet dealing with customers and like dealing with people all day. So having more people there may just increase their workload and may not reflect in their wage. Like they're not going to get paid to deal with more people, unfortunately. But at the end of the day, like if we have more people with more demand for thrift stores, maybe conditions for thrift store retail workers can improve somehow. I don't know. Or more jobs can be created around thrift stores. That's the goal for me, at least. I want to have my own thrift store in the future and like have a locally owned thrift store. So that's something I personally just would love to do and support my community with. But that's a future dream. But I do think anyone interested in thrift stores may be successful if they're opening one because of the influx of interest because of the tariffs. But yeah, going into other news, I did see this weird thing where Prada has a store in the middle of nowhere for some reason. It's called Prada Marfa, which is a store that's not really a store, and it's in the middle of a desert, so it feels like it's kind of a dream, they say. So no sales, no staff, just art, luxury, and a whole lot of mystery. So this was done by the artists Elmer Green and Dragset, located in the Texas desert near Valentine, and it was designed to resemble a Prada boutique, and it is filled with genuine Prada items from the 2005 collection, but the doors are always locked, and it was never intended to function as a retail space. Oddly enough, which is very interesting, I don't know why they would do this, but despite its remote location, Prada Marfa has become a cultural landmark, attracting visitors from all over the world who come to photograph and experience this unique blend of art and fashion. I personally don't think it's a combination of art and fashion. I think it's a waste of space. Like, I think they have almost made their brand a myth, and I don't think this is a culturally significant thing. I think it's just a waste of space. Like, so many people are homeless and so many people are looking for work, and yet this is what you decide to do. Also, the likelihood of this being stolen or like being broke into is massive. Like, it's in the middle of nowhere. Like, if someone just smashes a window and steals the bags, then I think they made a good profit that day. Not saying I would support it or justify it because it's a loan, but it is a bit odd for a store just to be unattended. I think there is cameras. It's just like, why would you need this? Like, what's the purpose of this? I think luxury fashion brands just have way too much money in their hands and just don't know what to do with their time. But a lot of people have been making videos about this, oddly enough. So let's see. Oh my god, this was 6 years ago. What the heck? Let's take a look.
Spring is here, and you know I had to run to DD's Discounts for the best home decor finds.
I'd do anything.
Surprise! We got a dog.
Oh, new pet? Let's go to PetSmart.
All right, I got something really interesting for all of you. You got to check this out. Now, it's not a real store, it's actually a sculpture, but it has a door, no handle on the door, so you can't actually go inside, but it actually has product.
Look at the camera.
Shelves, handbags.
The camera is straight at us. If we try to steal, we're going to get right in the camera's way.
And shoes. Look at that. As you can see, the actual name of the structure or of the art piece is called Prada Marfa. So all around the building is a fence, and people have put locks and little notes and trinkets and things like that all around. It's pretty interesting. Usually they'll put their name, when they were here. Now, it's not a real Prada store. It was developed by two artists, Elm Green and Dragset, in 2005. But the product originally inside was real. The day after this place was presented, it was opened, I think that night it was damaged, and now the handbags are cut out, the bottoms are cut out, and there's actually security sensors in them. So if anybody gets in there and tries to steal anything, the alarms go off, I guess. I don't know. It used to light up green at night, and it looked just like a regular store, although I don't think it lights up anymore. So, pretty interesting place though. It's so random out here in the middle of nowhere in Texas. I love it. But if you come here, be careful on this road because it's 75 miles an hour and it's fast.
I just feel like people have a lot of time. It's interesting to look at, but like, what's the purpose of it? It just seems like it's just a random destination to visit. There you go. That's it. That's all you get to do. Pose in front of it. But it's a very interesting concept, and to have the very next day have someone steal from the store just kind of shows like it's a bit of a temptation to have. But if the products are maybe fake, or the bottom of the bags are cut out, or if it's just there with a lot of surveillance, maybe like people will leave it alone. And it seems like people have left it alone. Like, why would you steal like one pair, well, like one of the pair of the of the shoes, or like why would you want a damaged bag that's not even real? So like, would it be worth the effort? But very interesting indeed. Saw that on Instagram and just wanted to share. But one of the other things that I've noticed is that there's just a lot happening in the world that's very much concerning. One of those things has been a Palestine student who was basically detained after he thought he was going to go to his naturalization interview. His name is Mohsen. I don't know how to say his name, but he is Palestinian. He went to the Columbia University. He formed like the Palestine club on campus, which is unfortunate. This happened April 14th. I'm sure you've already heard of it, but it's very concerning time in society. That's him giving a peace sign after he was arrested when he thought he was going to go to his naturalization interview. We should definitely take a look at more news articles about this or news videos on this, because this is very concerning. It shows the degradation of democracy. You can't mislead someone to think you're going to go to your, naturalization interview and then you find out you're being detained. Like, this is basically criminalizing free speech and criminalizing people that do have the right and the ability to be here. It's a concerning time under the Trump administration. So let's take a look at this video.
Another Columbia University student has been arrested for his activism against the war in Gaza. The Palestinian, who is a permanent resident in the US, is facing deportation. Kristen Salumi reports from New York.
Mohsen Madawi, an outspoken leader of Columbia University's student protest movement in its early days, is now the latest student activist to face deportation. A legal permanent resident of the United States, he was taken into custody when he showed up at a Vermont immigration office to be interviewed for his citizenship application. His lawyer tells Al Jazeera that she's been given no confirmation of his whereabouts. Madawi, who grew up in the West Bank, spoke to Al Jazeera in the early days of the student movement and described previous attempts to intimidate him for his activism.
A counter-protester comes towards me out of the crowd, and he calls me by name, and he said, Mohsen Madawi, I'm going to take your life, I'm going to kill you. And I smiled at him, and I said, what are you afraid of, the truth?
Madawi was targeted online by hardline pro-Israel groups calling for his deportation. According to court filings, the government appears to be using the same rationale it did to arrest Mahmoud Khalil and others, an obscure law that gives the Secretary of State the power to deport anyone deemed a threat to U.S. foreign policy interests. His lawyer has already filed a petition challenging the legality of the detention, alleging the government was violating his statutory and due process rights. The Trump administration detained Mohsen Madawi in direct retaliation for his advocacy on behalf of Palestinians, said lawyer Lena Druby, and because of his identity as a Palestinian. His detention is an attempt to speak to those who speak out against atrocities in Gaza. It is unconstitutional. According to the website Higher Education, more than 1,000 students at 170 colleges and universities have now had their student visa revoked by the State Department. 7 of them, like Madawi, from Columbia. Kristen Salumi, Al Jazeera, New York.
Well, Claire Finkelstein is a professor of national security law at the University of Pennsylvania Law School. She says it's unclear whether Mohsen Madawi will be deported, as lawyers have filed papers to block the process.
His lawyers immediately filed to say that he should not be removed from the jurisdiction. This was in Vermont. He appeared for a citizenship interview. He has been a green card holder since 2015. So this is not just someone who was on a student visa, but actually a green card holder. And when he showed up for his interview, he was then arrested and they began the deportation proceedings. The judge in this case granted the temporary restraining order and said he should not be removed from the jurisdiction. His lawyers also filed a petition for habeas corpus, which is a federal right that says you need to bring the person being detained into a federal court to show us the body, show us that you have this person, and explain yourselves. We do not know as of right now, to the best of my knowledge, whether or not the deportation is proceeding and whether or not the administration is actually going to listen to the court order.
Seems like democracy is true and alive right now under Trump. This is all just so bad. This is why I was in such a miserable mood in the beginning of my live stream, and maybe that's the reason why people aren't watching me. Totally fine. There's a number of reasons why I'm upset, and one of the reasons is this. The way that we criminalize people for taking action, for speaking out, for their lived experiences, and then criminalizing their background and just making it seem like they're they're not that, like they're not criminals, like they're not what everyone on the Republican side or the far right are making them out to seem. Like, I don't understand why you have to treat people like this. It's so inhumane, it's so unjustified, and it's incredibly cruel, and it's a testament of the times of how we're just turning people into literal animals when this is a man. This is a young man who has a bright future, who really deeply cares about his culture, and he understands that they're being unjustly killed. Like, we're in the midst of a genocide, and to stand up in solidarity with your own people, and that turns into a whole thing of like, yeah, maybe he'll show up alive in the court hearings. Like, what is happening? Like, what we don't even know where he is anymore. What did they do with him? What's updates on him? Like, what is his livelihood now? What is he okay? Is he getting killed? All these questions are things that we shouldn't be asking as American citizens. Like, he's legally allowed to be here, whether people want to accept that or not. Like, he was standing up for what he believed in, for what's just and what is needed from this current atrocities that we're experiencing. It's just, to not know if he's alive is crazy. It's so crazy. And then we also have this thing about how we're now deporting people that are American citizens and wondering, are they alive? Like, what's happening? It's just another crazy thing, and I want to get into it. So I don't remember his name. I just saw it yesterday, but a legal man was deported and he was born here. They even had his social security, and the judge could ignore it. Basically, it was just crazy. It's so crazy. I don't know what we're living in, but it feels like it's worse than COVID. So if I'm in a bad mood, oh my god, I don't know. I don't really know what's happening. Kilmar Albrego. Gilmad, sorry. I can't type because I'm so upset. Wait.
I wonder if HoneyBook has any new clients for me today.
Oh my god, these commercials are killing me.
Exclusive. Joining us now is Jennifer Vasquez-Sierra, wife of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the Maryland man who was wrongfully deported to El Salvador, and is at the center of a legal battle playing out in the courts. And Jennifer, we want to thank you for joining us this morning on GMA.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah, we really appreciate you joining us. And we saw that Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen, he flew to see your husband Wednesday. He released a photo of the two of them last night. What was it like for you to see that photo?
It was very overwhelming. The most important thing for me, my children, his mom, his brother, his sibling, was to see him alive, and we saw him alive.
Yeah,
it was very, very overwhelming.
Yeah, I think for all of us, we were all happy to see him alive. And what were you told your husband said in that meeting?
Can you repeat your question? I'm sorry.
What were you told your husband said in that meeting?
It was just a message of love.
So tell me a little bit about your husband. How long have you two been together, and what has your life been like with him?
We've been together over 7 years. It's been amazing. He's very a loving husband, an amazing father. And we were just young parents trying to live the American dream.
And we know you were living that dream until March 12th. That's when your husband was detained and sent back to El Salvador. Can you tell us what happened as you understand it, and how did you learn about his detainment?
Yes, it's been 37 days since March 12th, since my husband was abducted. It's been an emotional roller coaster, honestly. But just knowing right now that he's alive, you know, that day he was with our 5-year-old child, and we've continued, our faith has grown, and I keep him in my prayers to bring him back home.
And how did you learn that he was detained?
He made a phone call to me, and what we thought was a regular traffic stop was not a regular traffic stop.
And we know that the administration, they're resisting a court order to bring your husband back to the U.S. They say your husband's a member of the MS-13 gang. Is he a member of the MS-13 gang or any other gang?
No, he's not.
And I know this is a sensitive question, but I have to ask it. You did take out a temporary order of protection against your husband in 2021. Were you in fear of your husband?
My husband is alive. That's all I can say.
Okay, and you know, I'm not going to push on that apparently. But how much hope do you have that you're going to be reunited with your husband? And what keeps you and your family going?
A lot of hope. And this fight still continues for Kilmar, for all the other Kilmars out there whose voice haven't been heard yet. I won't stop fighting until he returns home, until I know that he's safe.
And if you could get your husband a message, what would you like to tell him right now?
I will tell him that I love him, and I'm gonna still keep praying for him until he returns. And I will continue fighting the community, GASA, the unions, Mr. Van Hollen, everyone out here. Will still continue fighting for him and all the other Kilmars out there.
Well, Jennifer, we want to thank you for joining us this morning, and we hope everything works out well in the way you like for you and your family. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh. The world is in chaos.
Bueno, que lo hagan, por puta. ¿Qué habla ahí? I can't reach it, it's up by her. Here you go.
There's a lot of Republicans in the chat or in the comments justifying this. I think we're in very troublesome times. And I knew this was going to come when Trump became president. And I was so afraid for this to happen. And it's happening. And people support him. They say, I voted for this. Ice, ice, baby. Like, this is a funny thing. Like, criminalizing people is a funny thing. I think we have to remember we're all from different parts of the world that have come to the United States for the same dream of making it. The only people that are really from the United States are those that are indigenous, and yet they're over here being killed off or are taking away their rights or their land. No one is really American. It's only the indigenous. To see this happen, it's just, it makes no sense to me. It just makes no sense to me. I feel like we've all lost our mind. And then we saw this happen recently as well, where the all-female crew went to space, and it's just caused so much controversy. I wonder if there is a video on this, but basically an all-female like celebrity crew went up into space for some reason. Like they thought they did something for female empowerment, but the carbon emissions that these females have done, and also the people behind this decision have made, it is not boding well.
Get 30 to 50% off.
Partaking in the Blue Origin 11-minute space flight, but the reception wasn't quite as welcoming as she had hoped.
Number 3, please don't call it a ride. That is not a friggin' ride. Whenever a man goes up, you have never said to an astronaut, boy, what a ride. You know, we duplicated the same trajectory that Alan Shepard did back in the day, pretty much. No one called that a ride. It was called a flight. It was called a journey, because a ride implies that it's something frivolous or something that's lighthearted. There was nothing frivolous about what we did, and the machine that we were on, and what it took for the people to get that machine up and running, to get us up and get us back down safely. So, you know, I'm very disappointed and very saddened by it. And I also say this, what it's doing to inspire other women and young girls, please don't ignore that. I've had so many women and young girls reach out to me, and men too, by the way, men too, that say, wow, I never thought I could do that, but I see you doing it at this stage of my life. Who would have thunk it? Not me. And how inspired they are.
The criticism came after footage during the spaceflight showed the women squealing and ended with Katy Perry bizarrely kissing the ground upon her return to Earth. The pop star then had the audacity to recommend the space mission to everyone, despite, of course, hardly anyone being able to afford such a luxury.
It is the highest high, and it is surrender to the unknown, trust, and this whole journey is not just about going to space. It's the training, it's the team, it's the whole thing. I couldn't recommend this experience more. This is like up there with all the, you know, different tools that I've learned in my life, from meditation to the Hoffman process. This is up there because what you're doing is you're like really finding the love for yourself, because you got to trust in yourself on this journey, and then you're feeling the love when you come down for sure, and you're feeling that strength. So I feel really connected to that strong divine feminine right now.
By the way, you're such a badass. I love that the month of April, you're like, I'm going to space and I'm launching my tour.
And Lauren Sanchez was also slammed for claiming the spaceflight helped her feel connected to humanity.
We're so connected, more connected than you realize, because you just see right here, you see, like, you know, states and all these things that like divide us, but we're not.
Many, such as outspoken model Emily Ratajkowski, saw the trip as a frivolous display of wealth and a waste of resources that hurts the environment.
Space mission this morning, that's end-time shit. Like, this is beyond everything that you care about Mother Earth, and it's about Mother Earth, and you're going up in a spaceship that is built and paid for by a company that's single-handedly destroying the planet. Look at the state of the world and think about how many resources went into putting these women into space. For what? For what was the marketing there? And then to try to make it like, I'm disgusted, literally, I'm disgusted.
This commentator agreed, saying she's 1,000% right. Like, who gives a F about billionaires in the first place, let alone their ego-inflated vacations while our planet is being destroyed? And Megyn Kelly reveled in the takedown of the woke space passengers by their equally as woke Hollywood peers.
Where's Greta Thunberg? Where's her protest on how many carbon emissions we had to suffer just so that Gail could be proud of herself? Olivia Wilde reposted an image of Katy Perry kissing the ground. Honestly, truly, she was acting like she got back from Apollo 13, kissing the ground, and she captioned it, $1 billion.
Oh my god. I think I'm gonna sign off for today. It's been a rough day. It's been a rough week. It's been incredibly dystopian to see the world as it is, but hopefully next week I am a bit more inspired by humanity, a bit more excited to get into the topics that are so important to us. My computer's about to die. I'm at 2%. I am not live streaming on a PC. I'm simply live streaming on a laptop, doing what I can when I can. If you want to support me, all the links are in the description. And I will see you next Tuesday. Until next time, peace and love. Ellie. Bye. See you later. Oh, I just realized I was in the bottom. Should I move over here? Okay. Let's wave over here. Oh. Bye. Thanks for watching. See ya. Bye.